the everyday Hogwarts player. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Not Used to Happiness. While Harry and Sirius were in an awkward daze in the living room, Harry couldn't help but ask, "Will Dumbledore come to the birthday party today?" "Is it Remus?" "That's right, it's your birthday, he should tell you." Mr. Sirius raised his eyebrows, but soon regained his composure. "Horcrux. That's not something you should know at your age," Sirius said seriously, and Harry still looked at him curiously. Okay, don't make that expression with this face. You know, Harry, you and James look a lot like each other." "I can't resist James, you should know that." "Okay, listen to me. This is just my guess, because the Horcrux is just a more evil magic, but not very sophisticated," Sirius commented. "Not brilliant. What if it can really prolong life or even prevent death?" Harry looked puzzled. "Making a Horcrux requires killing. And the existence of ghosts has proven the existence of the afterlife. All the people we love are waiting for us in that world, and they are only inferior to Voldemort. To remain immortal with a Horcrux, one needs to split the soul and hide part of it in an object. This way, even if the body is attacked or destroyed, one will not die, because there is still a part of the soul left in the world without being damaged. Splitting one's soul is too costly, and no one dares to try it," Sirius said helplessly. "Lockheed!" exclaimed Harry. "Yes, this is very similar to a Horcrux. Besides, the most notorious Parseltongue of this century is undoubtedly Voldemort." Sirius agreed. But why am I also a Parseltongue?" "As far as I know, our Potter family has no such bloodline," Harry said with a frown. Unlike the original world line, as a Ravenclaw, he conducted a thorough investigation of his family. This also ties into what Ryan told him about the Deathly Hallows. The Potters are purebloods, and purebloods are related by blood. This also includes the Gaunt family, the descendants of Slytherin. Harry's mood suddenly turned bad. He remembered one thing: Gaunt and Potter both came from Peveril. So it was possible that he had the talent of Parseltongue. But Harry didn't think of this at first. He thought Parseltongue was a unique talent to Slytherin and passed on to Gaunt. It should have nothing to do with Peveril. "Harry, this is also your talent. Don't resist it. Maybe it will work someday." "Dumbledore to examine Regulus' body," Sirius said regretfully. "It works." Harry was about to object, but he suddenly thought of the Resurrection Stone. "It is the treasure of the Gaunt family. Maybe it contains magic traps. The Gaunt family's unique talent of Parseltongue will come in handy." "I understand," Harry agreed. The time soon came to 9 o'clock in the morning, and Sirius went out with a mysterious look on his face. No one knew what he was doing. "Proposed by Creature. So this was the preparation, and I didn't even know it," said Lupin. He lowered his head and gently sniffed the flowers blooming on the table entangled by vines. "Aha, this Gilderoy Lockhart is not a good person after all." The sleepiness in Ron's eyes was immediately dispelled by the Daily Prophet on the table, which was turned to the page about Gilderoy Lockhart's arrest. In his opinion, the guy his great father hated was definitely not a good person. But he should be very good. Those things in his story turned out to be true. I used to think it was a fiction he made up. As for the truth, it must be because he is a Ravenclaw, and his wide range of knowledge makes up for it. And Gilderoy Lockhart was the guy who brought down the wizards who accomplished these great feats by himself. It's unbelievable. I thought he was just a fool. This also shows how powerful Ravenclaw is. Look at Lockhart, he brought down so many powerful wizards and altered their memories. And Rita Skeeter, who can sneak into Hogwarts and take pictures. Even Professor Flitwick, who looks easy to bully, was a dueling champion when he was young. So Draco, you better be careful. If you keep mocking me every day like this, I think your fate will not be better than those wizards knocked down by Gilderoy Lockhart," Ron suddenly said insidiously. "Come on, Ron. So, Voldemort is still a Slytherin. Why aren't you afraid of me?" Draco raised his eyebrows, indifferent. Harry did not rashly join in the argument between Draco and Ron. They had had conversations of this level many times before. Like the last time he overheard the conversation between Sirius and Lupin, alone. It was also to get some peace and quiet for a while and avoid being disturbed by Ron and Draco. As for looking at the Black family tree and studying it, it was just to pass the time. "Creature, isn't Regulus coming out for dinner?" Creature said in a low and hoarse voice, while fiddling around in the kitchen, preparing for today's lunch. "I see." Harry agreed. Harry was actually very curious about Regulus' existence. But what he was most curious about today was what his birthday party would be like. He had experienced Dudley's many times at the Dursleys, but when it came to his own, Harry had no experience at all. Besides, this is the birthday party of the Wizarding World. Does he need to give a speech on stage? What does he need to say in his speech? And his hair is so unruly that it won't stay put no matter how hard you try. Will it not match his brand new dress robe? Now that Dumbledore is here, what should he say? What gift would Dumbledore bring him? Chapter 277 Birthday Gift. While Harry was immersed in anxiety, the first to visit were the owls. All kinds of owls, white, black, big and small, flew into the living room from somewhere. One by one, the beautifully wrapped gifts fell on the table in front of him like a meteor shower. "I almost forgot, Harry, happy 12th birthday to you," Ron said as he took out a rectangular gift package from somewhere, but it looked very small, about the size of a palm. Draco on the side was stunned, looking at the small package, and so was Harry. "This can't be," Draco nervously said. "Gold card." Harry's voice suddenly became slightly hoarse for some reason. "Yes, Devil's passport." Ron made a face. "You are crazy. There's only one in the world, and did I already give you the Nimbus 2000? With emotion, "No, it was a Christmas present, I remember." "Harry, I still want your birthday present for me, don't try to deny it." "Harry, you have to prepare my birthday present carefully," Ron said casually. "Ron," Harry didn't know what to say. "Ron, how are you going to give me this gift?" "Harry, why don't I prepare it again and come back tonight?" Draco awkwardly tried to put away a package hidden behind his back. Harry snatched it away. "Come on, Draco, you're the best gift here." "Let me see." Harry opened Draco's gift in no time. Harry understood that in the Wizarding World, opening a gift given to you in person, showing your eagerness to do so, was the greatest respect for the wizard who gave you the gift. What caught Harry's eye was a pair of glasses. This pair of glasses has a square frame, and the frame is made of a material similar to the crystal version, in black. "Harry, these are waterproof glasses. Put them in the box for the new ones, then put on the new ones." Draco finally smiled. "Happy 12th birthday, Harry." Welcomed Ryan. Harry was familiar with this feeling. Lupin used to be a prefect at Hogwarts, but Harry, who already knew a lot about the Wizarding World, knew that all of this outstanding summary would be overshadowed by Lupin's other identity, a werewolf. He might have a hard time finding a decent job before Sirius was released from prison. And Lupin's gift probably wouldn't be either. In other words, it would be a bargain in Draco's eyes. The kind of present Draco had specifically picked out and thrown away when he was still a nuisance. Good gift. He was afraid that he would be too slow and embarrass Lupin. What appeared in front of Harry was a mirror with many Ravenclaw elements carved on it. "I made this myself. In the dark, as long as you need light, it will serve as a light source and illuminate everything." Lupin said embarrassingly. "That's great," Ron said exaggeratedly, and he obviously noticed Lupin's discomfort. "It's really great light. With it we can free up our wands and do other things," Draco also praised. He also wanted to comfort Lupin, but he was obviously more thoughtful. "Remus, your gift is really great," Harry agreed. Lupin finally couldn't help making a face and smiled easily. Next, Harry obviously learned one thing, which was not to open gifts in front of Ron and the others. No matter whether the gift is good or bad, it will attract the attention of Ron and the other three who also gave gifts. Once Harry returned to the living room, everything had changed. It seemed as if someone was waiting for Harry to leave here temporarily. A large number of sky blue flowers floated in the air, hanging above their heads. The flowers sparkled with starlight, forming the shape, "Harry Potter, happy 12th birthday." Lupin sprayed blue and bronze banners from the tip of his wand, which were artistically hung from the extra trees and bushes around him. "Great," Ron exclaimed as he watched Lupin wave his wand for the last time, turning the surrounding decorations into sky blue. "I almost thought I was back in the Ravenclaw common room." "Thank you, Ron," said Lupin, and then there was Sirius and Dumbledore. Sirius' robes turned into fiery red, while Dumbledore wore a dress that resembled pajamas in the Muggle world on a rectangular table, a place that seems to be filled with only air. "That's a piece of cake, it's invisible," When it came into contact with the cream, its true appearance was revealed. The yellow cake formed the shape of a phoenix. The white cream turned red and gold when he touched it. Almost in the blink of an eye, with Dumbledore's last flick of his wrist, a beautiful singing voice appeared. It was the voice of the phoenix. It's amazing. Looks delicious. That voice is amazing. Lupin, Ron and Draco couldn't help but say. Sirius obviously knew all this in advance, and Harry's lips trembled, not knowing what to say. Harry, this is your gift. Sirius handed over a book with a black cover and no name on it. Harry opened it with trembling hands. It was a series of photos as my gift to you for turning 1. This little broom can only rise 2 feet off the ground. As a result, Lily once complained to me that you killed a kitten and almost broke an ugly vase. Sirius said softly. Harry flipped through the pages again and again, but he couldn't get enough. It was filled with photos of his parents and his former home. Chapter 278 Quarrel. That vase must be a gift from Aunt Petunia, Harry said jokingly, wiping his eyes. The ugly and unique style of the vase in the photo was obviously the work of his aunt. Harry was very familiar with this. The carpets and even the tablecloths in the Dursleys' house were similar to the vase. They were Aunt Petunia's favorite, too, but she was the only one who liked them. Harry actually knew that Uncle Dursley had wanted to replace these things many times. But having said that, his aunt really liked Harry's mother and was willing to give the vase as a gift. You know, given Harry's familiarity with Aunt Petunia, this vase is to her what Nimbus 2001 is to Ron. It's that woman's. I never understood why Lily liked her sister so much. She's mean, she hates people like us, and she's even ugly, said Sirius. It is inappropriate to judge a person by his appearance. Dumbledore said seriously, pulling out his wand and waving it. A chair flew behind him. You are facing the guests, but you forgot to invite me to sit down. If you don't understand Lily, then you probably don't understand why Penny would risk her life to adopt her sister's child. You might say there's Lily's blood magic, but Petunia doesn't understand that. She adopted her sister's only child after her family was murdered by terrorists. I'm using the right word, Harry. And, to be honest, Petunia was quite nice to Harry before he grew up. Dumbledore said in a light tone and turned to look at Harry, as if he was recalling what he looked like before he grew up based on his current face. Maybe, Sirius muttered unwillingly. To be honest, Sirius's tone and expression when he muttered were exactly the same as Kreacher's. But it is understandable. Kreacher looks much older than Sirius. Maybe, Kreacher spends more time with Sirius than his parents. Harry suddenly thought of this. Wait, what did you just say? Cat? Harry asked suddenly. They had a cat, maybe it died in Godric's Hollow like its parents, or maybe it left because no one fed it. By the way, he hadn't been to Godric's Hollow, his real home. Thinking of this, Harry's internal organs seemed to twitch. There was a cat. I remember the cat's name was Snowflake, said Sirius. Think there was anything to stress about a cat? Perhaps Sirius himself did not realize that the Black family's education had been deeply engraved in his soul in some ways. He did not think that cats and house elves had the same emotions as them. I know why. Harry hates cats. Because when the Dursleys go on a trip, they leave Harry with an old Muggle lady named Fig, who adopts a lot of cats, said Ron. He glanced at Draco smugly, happy that only he and Harry knew his dark secret. It seems there is another person? No, it must be an illusion. Come on, Ron, you just knew Harry earlier. Speaking of cats, I think all Hogwarts students would dislike them very much, Draco complained. He wasn't jealous at all about Ron and Harry's little secret. In his opinion, this was just because of Ron's slander against their family at the beginning and his own attitude. She's a Slytherin too. Not to mention that Hogwarts has the most cats. It's just that they usually don't let cats out of the dormitory. Ron said in an exaggerated tone. You don't have a crush on her, do you? That's fine too. Besides Harry, we both have girls we like. This way our parents won't think that the relationship between us and Harry's abnormal. Draco smiled. Hey. That's a great idea, but I don't like Millicent. You're crazy. If it's Crabbe or Goyle, it's possible. You know, Millicent is about the same size as them, and has a double chin. Ron frowned. If you didn't like her, why would you pay so much attention to her appearance? Draco said sarcastically. Sometimes, being too pretty, or like Millicent. Harry sat aside, watching Ron and Draco quarreling again with a look of dismay. Kreacher moved among the flowers and plants, breathlessly. Rich and delicious food next to the cake. On the other side, outside Regulus' room at the stairs, Sirius and Dumbledore came here. We have to hurry while Creature is preparing lunch. Sirius looked very anxious. I will never hurt Regulus no matter what. He's a hero too, he did a lot for us in defeating Voldemort, said Dumbledore his brother. Well, I'll just say it straight. I trust you, Dumbledore, but not on this respect. Harry can be considered a hero, but what was his childhood like? Sirius whispered. Gone. Suitable place for Harry. Dumbledore's light blue eyes revealed great seriousness. That's what I'm worried about. What if Regulus leaving this world is the best option? Child. He walked tremblingly towards the only person he felt close to here, and wiped the tears from Sirius' face with his hands worriedly and clumsily. I think you understand what I mean. Sirius hugged his brother, his eyes revealing a determination to protect him even at the cost of his life. Dumbledore sighed, but if his existence itself is unstable, or if releasing his soul trapped in the body is the best option, you should understand what I mean. Chapter 279 Physical Examination. In the dim room, on a gorgeous and spacious bed, a man with his upper body naked, eyes wide open, was helplessly caressed by a pair of old and slender hands. The man's marble white chest trembled from time to time because of the touch of the warm hands. The man wanted to struggle, but the look in the eyes of another man beside the bed who looked somewhat similar to him kept him calm. Dumbledore, how about I light a candle? Sirius pulled out his wand and prepared to point it at the candle in the wall socket. He felt that if the lights were on, Dumbledore would not be so shameless in his groping. No, Regulus can recover his energy in the dark. I need to wait and see. Dumbledore flatly refused, but still used his hands to touch Regulus' skin. Sirius really wanted to shoot an Avidar at Dumbledore. Dumbledore's sexual orientation, his suspicious actions, and his insistence on taking off clothes before checking made Sirius, who believed in Dumbledore, couldn't help but wonder, maybe Dumbledore hadn't seen a man for too long. His mind told him that Dumbledore not using a wand was the proper behavior for a wizard of his level. In a non-combat environment, you can better feel the magic with your hands and eyes. Pulling out a magic wand and causing lots of bangs and smoke is usually a sign of lower-level people. But Sirius could hardly bear it any longer. He felt like a pimp, letting his brother be bothered by an old man who is over 100 years old. The fingers holding the magic wand turned slightly white, and his face became more and more ferocious. Dumbledore, who was crouching over Regulus and touching him, seemed to sense something. Okay, I've checked it out. Really? Sirius quickly put a wizard robe on his brother. Is he okay? Sirius asked nervously, forgetting to breathe for a moment. At the same time, he completely forgot about Dumbledore's actions, which seemed to him to be murderous. All our worries are in vain. Dumbledore said directly. He knew that he could not be a Riddler at such a critical moment. That's great. Sirius jumped and danced happily while hugging his younger brother. Although Regulus didn't understand, he still smiled innocently. But Dumbledore's mouth curled up slightly. But what? Probably wouldn't be so nervous, but there is one bad thing, Dumbledore said, and the hook at the corner of his mouth became bigger, almost. What's wrong? Sirius asked in a low voice. What you need to worry about is not that your brother will suddenly leave you. On the contrary, it should be your brother who is worried that you will leave him one day. Seeing that Sirius was so nervous that he was about to cry, Dumbledore slowly said the key point. Regulus lived a long life. Sirius was happy at first, but then his face turned sad again. My brother is just like a child now. What will he do when I am 100 years old? Maybe it's time for Creature to have a baby. Whenever a house elf needs to pass on their work to the next generation, they take time out to have children. Realized that he was black, and they had house elves. With Creature and his offspring, Regulus' future would be fine without him. Creature, who was lighting a fire in the kitchen, sneezed. Sirius, is there a possibility that Regulus can live independently without the elf? Dumbledore reminded. Sirius was still immersed in his own world, and he even began to distance himself from the thing he hated the most, the Black family's property. Which ones are bound by magical contracts? Which ones need to be given up to avoid trouble? Which ones need to be given up to avoid trouble? Ones can be obtained safely even if Regulus does not show up. Sirius, Regulus just lost his memory, but that doesn't mean he has become a retard. He is like a child at the moment. He just needs to grow up and study step by step. Before you passed away, He might have grown into a wizard in his own right. Dumbledore had no choice but to say directly and would automatically let it go in one ear and out the other. Really? If that's the case, will he grow up very slowly? He's been an infantry for more than 10 years. Sirius looked at his younger brother doubtfully. Regulus gave him a smile that could be described as pure at best, or idiotic at worst. Could it be that Regulus had only just learned to speak when I died? Sirius couldn't help thinking so. Learned from Voldemort to make Horcruxes. As for killing people, that's no big deal. Voldemort is not dead yet. When he makes a comeback one day in the future, can't he just capture a Death Eater and use him as a Horcrux? Wahahaha. Sirius's face was full of smiles again. Maybe it has something to do with the environment Regulus lives in. Dumbledore looked at Sirius awkwardly and began to doubt why he accepted him as a member of the Order of the Phoenix. Also, whether he was really qualified as the headmaster of Hogwarts. After all, Sirius Black, the outstanding graduate of Gryffindor, looks like this. How could I not think of it? Regulus, look how stupid I am. Sirius hugged his brother, who was still a fool, with the same silly smile as Regulus. I never thought that you have been surrounded by infantry for so many years, and they can't speak. Sirius laughed until tears came out, noticing the robe that Regulus had just put on fell off again. Sorry, we disturbed you. It was Ron, and several other heads popped up. Ron just opened the door and took a look inside with a light, but the next second, he quickly closed the door. We meant to say it's time for dinner. Harry's voice came from outside the door. Maybe you should take a shower first, Draco said in a strange tone. Sirius, I think I should find a spare room, said Lupin. They all looked strange, although their reason told them that Dumbledore should be checking Regulus' body. But combined with everything that happened inside, the messy sheets, and Dumbledore's romantic scandals when he was young, they couldn't help but think too much. Chapter 280 Non-Existence. What kind of wizard is Dumbledore in the wizarding world? In fact, before Dudley's story appeared in the Daily Prophet, not many wizards knew about his unruly and romantic life in his youth. As for Dumbledore not getting married, that is also normal. A powerful wizard can imagine everything in his mind, real and vivid. But now, every wizard knows about the affair between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, so Harry and the others can't think too much about it. You know, even though Sirius was present and knew Dumbledore's true intention, he couldn't help but doubt and even had the intention to kill him. I think I'll explain it to them, said Sirius, but for some reason he smiled with a gloating smile. They all know that I came to check Regulus' body. Dumbledore keenly noticed this from their expressions, but he was not in a hurry at all. To be honest, he had long been accustomed to this ever since Harry's childhood and Dudley's deeds were published in the Daily Prophet. You know, even Newt's wife Tina wrote a letter about this. She suspected that her husband had an abnormally close relationship with Dumbledore. The same goes for the other professors at Hogwarts. If there was anyone who was not affected by these reports, it would probably be Hagrid. Hagrid firmly believed that these were all lies made up by Rita Skeeter her part. Then, let's just go out. As Sirius asked the question, Dumbledore had already pushed open the door and walked out naturally. As for Regulus, he must have stayed in the direct house. It wasn't that Sirius felt that the others hated his brother and were prepared to isolate him from the others. Rather, he discovered that Regulus preferred dark environments, even vaguely more than himself, and Creature ate only because of the remaining memories in his body. According to Sirius's measurements, the energy Regulus got from eating was not as much as staying in the dark room for an hour. Now, even Creature no longer asked to cook for his favorite master Regulus all day long. On the contrary, as soon as Regulus went out, Creature would suddenly appear and turn off all the lights in Regulus's path. So Sirius mustered up the courage to follow Dumbledore's tall and thin figure to the living room, which was decorated like a wonderland in the forest. In the living room, the long square table was now filled with delicious food: the singing phoenix cake, Creature's best French onion soup, boiled potatoes, various tempting and rich stews, syrup fruit pies, steak and kidney pies. Ron, who should have been eating heartily at this moment, was playing with his fork out of boredom. It seemed that even he understood that he could not eat before the others, that is, Dumbledore and Sirius, and the table was arrived not full. No wonder Ron opened the door first. His stomach couldn't wait. Professor, Sirius, you're here. Ron greeted them impatiently. It seemed as if the scene that just happened was completely thrown out of his mind. Is Regulus okay? Harry demonstrated the high emotional intelligence he had learned from his years at the Dursleys, and used Regulus as an excuse to brush aside the embarrassing scene body when he came He's fine. Sirius couldn't help but smile, although the scene just now was very embarrassing. The news that Regulus was fine still made him smile. Great, the spot. Sirius, who was expelled from orthodoxy, didn't care at all. On the contrary, he applauded. Well, didn't Sirius get up early these days to prepare for my birthday? Harry discovered the blind spot. No, it's also because of Regulus. I couldn't sleep because I was worried about him. Sirius said in a relaxed tone. Now that Regulus is well, everything is like a breeze for him. Why was Regulus naked just now? Sure enough, it was Ron. Sirius's face darkened. No, except for what just happened. Fortunately, as Ron's friend, even Draco had learned to make up for him and change the subject. What's going on with Regulus? He doesn't seem to need to eat, and can't see the light. Dumbledore, who was already sitting at the dining table, saw this and said, Regulus is in a miraculous state. Body. It seems to be able to absorb certain substances from the dark environment to maintain its survival needs. Dumbledore said with a smile. Like Boggart. Boggarts like to live in dark, narrow spaces, closets, cracks under beds, sinks, and lockers under desks. Oh, and grandfather clocks. My dad said they also like dark corners, Ron replied, raising his hand with a beaming smile. Since Dumbledore moved his fork, that meant he could eat as much as he wanted, too. At this moment, even Dumbledore, who had experienced hundreds of years, was stunned for a moment. He couldn't imagine that even if he moved his fork to remind Ron that he could start eating, he couldn't shut his mouth. Comparing Regulus to a Boggart is like pointing to a baby girl and saying she is the mother of a dog. Harry and Draco glared at each other. Sirius didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Never really lives either. It is a strange non-being in the wizarding world, beyond life and death. So they are neither born nor die. They arise from human emotions and feed on them. They are always appearing. In short, they grow like fungi in decaying places. For example, Dementors, all known non-existences, are able to fly without physical assistance, which is almost impossible for wizards to do, Dumbledore emphasized. Could Dumbledore fly like Ryan? And Regulus is alive, he has his own life, not like non-existence, the fungus in the magical world. Dumbledore said finally. I see. Ron picked up a piece of food and said as he ate it. He didn't seem to realize how much he had just said. He should also be thankful that creature is not here. Otherwise, he would have gone from being Master Harry's friend to being the son of a pure-blood traitor. Chapter 281 Dumbledore's Gift Non-Existence? Beyond Life and Death? This is Regulus. No one expected that Sirius was not angry because he also felt that Ron was right. Regulus is also a person with a long life in Dumbledore's words. You know, wizards are actually the longest-lived humanoid creatures in the wizarding world. As long as they stay happy. The vampires in the Muggle world's legends don't live as long as wizards. In other words, as long as you understand the psychology that Lily mentioned and maintain mental health, it will be more effective than any panacea. If this is the case, then, Dumbledore, what emotions does Regulus ingest? You once said that he had a long life? Sirius couldn't help asking. Oh Sirius, I see what you mean. Regulus is different. His definition of existence and non-existence is different. Boggarts. Secondly, although Regulus is not as afraid of sunlight as ordinary Inferi, a strong fire spell can destroy him. Non-existences cannot be truly eliminated, and wizards can only invent a variety of spells that can drive them away, using positive emotions to prevent them from causing negative emotions in their victims. Third, Regulus can't fly. In confusion, it can only be said that he has transformed into another life form, the ideal life form of the Inferi, the creator of the dark magic, one that does not need food, is immortal, and can draw strength from darkness. Just like the Phoenix, a new one, but without the indestructible immortality of the Phoenix. Horcruxes to keep each other immortal, can check and balance each other, but the triangle is the most stable structure, and Regulus is a blank sheet of paper that he can paint freely and dye with his own color. A wizard who truly inherited his thoughts? Dumbledore took a deep breath. He had to say that he was moved. Put a dying wizard in there. With luck, he becomes the same as Regulus, and we can collect more money. If we fail, accuse us of fraud. But we also have Dumbledore and Regulus himself as evidence. Besides that island, there are other traps set by Voldemort in the cave. Even if someone wants to bypass us, they don't have a creature. Now, Voldemort's magic trap becomes our natural save. Ron said suddenly. His ideas were so wild and imaginative that everyone present was stunned, so much so that Ron finished a long speech without interrupting him. In a corner where no one was paying attention, the Elder Wand flashed a tiny glimmer. And, can it really be copied? Draco couldn't help but complain. This is very dangerous. If you really do this, I can only make an unbreakable vow with you, for the safety of my brother. Sirius said seriously. Ron then lowered his eyes, which had turned into $. Ron, that place belongs to Voldemort. What if something unexpected happens? Harry couldn't help but complain. However, unlike Draco and Sirius, he had already accepted Ryan's point of view after being subtly trained by Ryan. Magic is a miracle. In his opinion, what Ron said could really be implemented, but not now. That should be after Voldemort's death. After all, Nicholas Flamel is not immortal either. This is off limits for wizards, kids. Those who play with life will be played with by life. Regulus' existence is a miracle, just as wizards cannot gain immortality through the Phoenix, said Dumbledore. He sensed what Harry was thinking from his words. Dumbledore felt that magic should be restricted, and that evil magic such as Horcruxes that pursue immortality should not be studied or involved in their family, another reason why he did not intend to continue the bloodline. The forbidden bloodline was not allowed to be passed down from his body. Okay, kids, it's Harry's birthday. Dumbledore seemed to absent-mindedly raise his wand again and spun it in the air, and a silver lighter appeared in front of Harry. What is this? Ron asked curiously. This is a little invention of mine, a lights-out device. With just a flick of the trigger, it can suck away all the lights in a place and then light them up again, Dumbledore said casually. Gizmo. This invention and the magical technology it contains are something I have never seen before. Sirius looked at the Deluminator and said solemnly. Professor Dumbledore. Harry suddenly stammered. How? Just say it directly. Dumbledore said with a smile. I want to give him to Regulus, is that okay? Harry said after hesitating for a moment. No, this is your gift. Sirius said immediately before Dumbledore could reply. Harry, this is my gift to you. You can use it as you like. But I think you care about its function, to absorb light sources anytime and anywhere. But what I suggest is that you study it yourself. Yes, I am right, it is a magic book in another sense. After you learn it, teach Sirius the spell, or give it directly to Regulus. Dumbledore said meaningfully. Chapter 282, Devour. The Sun-Chasing Wolf. The Delighter, a seemingly simple alchemical item. Its use seems to be very simple, it can absorb light sources. But it's not simple just in terms of absorbing light. It absorbs the source, as long as it does not re-release the light source absorbed in this silver lighter. You will find that there is nothing wrong with the absorbed candle or light, but you can't light it. It absorbs concepts that are totally inconsistent with existing scientific basis and are a fantastic existence by an extraordinary being who is idealistic and aware of the essence of a wizard in the original world line. Even Scrimgeour, a powerful wizard, wanted this rare and valuable thing, and its function is not just to turn off the lights. On the way to find the Horcrux, Ron left Harry and Hermione because of the negative emotions caused by wearing the Horcrux close to his body. At this time, the voices of Harry and Hermione came from the Delighter. You know, they were several kilometers away from Ron. When Ron activated it, a ball of light emerged from it, shining blue like the light of a portkey, and entered Ron's body directly. In that state, Ron could even sense their location from several kilometers away and operate directly over there. The lights-off device can also allow the owner to hear the voice of the person he loves, and can also locate the person. However, this yearning must be two-way, or in other words, the owner's name must be mentioned. Like in the original world line, Ron heard the conversation between him and Harry when Hermione mentioned his name. To be honest, Ryan couldn't imagine that Dumbledore would give this prop to Harry. Ryan thought that the function of this Illuminator to find people was very similar to the spell that Voldemort had cast on his own name. The holder's name will be engraved on the inside of the extinguisher lights-off device, relies on the longing and positive emotions between people. On the other hand, in the original world line, when Harry was in his 7th year, Voldemort's search team also had such a thing. They relied on that magic prop of unknown shape to capture a large number of people who dared to call out Voldemort's name, but that prop is more popular and does not distinguish the emotions of the person who calls Voldemort's name, and now, this magical prop was given to Harry Potter. The name Dumbledore on the inside of the silver lighter gradually disappeared, and Harry's name began to appear. Ryan began to feel a little curious about when Harry Potter would discover the function of the Deluminator. Moreover, this item is indeed a magic book. Presumably, Harry's current strength made Dumbledore feel that he should be trained further. The Deluminator, involving the connection between hearts, is the step that makes Harry Potter stronger. His friends would spend any time figuring out the Deluminator given to them by Dumbledore. Later, Sirius and Lupin joined in. With the help of these two adult wizards, one night in August, Harry suddenly took out his wand. In the old black house, the lit candles on the wall suddenly turned into balls of light and sank into Harry's wand. Choose a name that you think has magical meaning. Spell was named. Balls of light emerged from the end of Harry's wand and returned to the top of the candle. Harry, you just created a spell. What does he mean? Ron looked shocked. You idiot, you can't just say that, Draco said sarcastically. If a spell is not intended to be spread, it is best not to analyze its meaning. Even the story of its origin. Only in this way will the spell be difficult to break and even double its power. Generally speaking, except for spells that represent extraordinary magical phenomena in themselves, spreading a spell will only make it easier to learn and break. Therefore, wizards usually keep secret the meaning of their most proud and first created spells. I was just too excited. Ron smiled sheepishly after coming back to his senses. No, this was meant to be passed to Sirius so that Regulus wouldn't have to extinguish and relight each candle when he came in and out, said Harry. This spell actually comes from 3 parts. A wolf that devours the sun. My spell absorbs the light source and points out its function. The second part comes from Lupus, wolf, which is to connect with a previous part and further clarify which wolf SKLL refers to. The third part may sound familiar to you. Yes, you guessed it, Ron. It's engorgio, rapid enlargement, a variant of gorge. It comes from the old French word, and as a verb it means to swallow in the throat. We often extend it to mean to wolf down or eat with big mouthfuls. This part is actually to further show the action of the wolf skull swallowing the sun in the Norse mythology. It means devour. Sun-chasing wolf. That's what I mean, Harry said lightly. Harry, you. Instant. Sirius originally thought that Harry's spell was just made up at random, but he didn't expect that it was so perfect compared to a spell that had been polished and made impeccable. How come you think so much all of a sudden? Ron widened his eyes in disbelief. This is not magic. Draco couldn't help but slap himself, wanting to confirm whether he was dreaming. You know, the difficulty of learning a spell is actually related to its name. If it is a newly created spell with a meaningless name, only senior students can master it by just using it, but if its name is perfect, and even has a complete explanation or story behind it, lower grade students like them can learn and master it if the creators added specific actions. I'm afraid even a beginner would just have to recite the right spell. Chapter 283 Ravenclaw's Orthodox Learning Method. In the face of Ron's shock, Harry just smiled. He felt that naming a magical phenomenon was not difficult at all. The difficult part was learning the first half, to break away from the existing magic system and cast spells based on feelings. Lupin, it would probably not have been possible to learn the magic so quickly. Not to mention the magic naming. And through it, Harry also discovered the more mysterious and profound magic contained in the Deluminator. I have even heard a word vaguely. It was Neville's voice. Grandma, this is what Harry taught me. However, this sound only lasted for a brief moment and then became blurred. Harry was not going to tell Ron and the others about this because it involved the secrets of the underwater wizarding world. He was ready to say something else at this moment. A book, a little-known book Ryan once introduced to me, The Evolution of Spells. This book explains the origins and meanings behind the spells. Ron, you should know that. Power of magic was only related to one's own magic power. Why is it useless? Once you understand these, you will find it much easier to learn the spell whose name you know. Latter, it's just hard work. This is the approach that Hufflepuffs should take. Finally, I understand. Why was it that when I was in school, some guys with heavy accents could quickly learn to cast a spell? Sirius suddenly realized he couldn't imagine that the nerd in his eyes had such methods. He is so old now, but he still knows more than his own children. Actually, this method depends on the person. Those who can't concentrate on reading books, or those who are better at learning spells from practice, don't need this method, and most of the first-year students are like this, so this method is not recommended by teachers, even. Then, Professor Flitwick only gave me extra credit for explaining the spell, when he clearly knew the method, but He didn't explain further. It's a method that can't even be promoted in Ravenclaw College. It's indeed the unpopular book that Ryan mentioned, Harry said. He had intended to comfort Sirius, but the more he spoke, the more he realized the limitations of this method of learning spells. Very Ravenclaw, but no one wants to learn like that. Instead of spending time reading, you might as well correct your accent or practice the trajectory of waving a magic wand. Stop. It, Harry, isn't it useful. See, it's because of this book and this way of learning that you invented a spell so quickly. Ron comforted. So you are willing to learn this way too? Harry was overjoyed. I'd better forget it, said Ron dejectedly. Everyone laughed except Harry. Ryan, who had already arrived at Diagon Alley in London to go shopping with Penelope and Kate, raised his head. Potter? The guy who has an ambiguous relationship with a boy. Penelope blinked as she was seriously delayed in getting the information. You can say that. Ryan didn't give any explanation for Harry. He felt that this was not something that needed to be explained clearly to Penelope. After all, everything started with the raw material for Dudley to become a wizard, the perverted wizard named Jason Custer. Ryan himself is also closely related to this. What was the incantation for that spell he created? Hand, Sklepgorgio, meaning, as for the effect, guess. Ryan said with a wicked smile, and Penello is worthy of being Penello. If it were Kate, she would probably keep hanging on Ryan until Ryan explained everything. Kate has never had much patience for these academic things. Lupus, wolf, is it a spell similar to the snake summoning spell, a spell similar to transfiguration? Serpensortia, serpens, means snake. Ortus is the past participle of the Latin verb orare, meaning to be created, and sortire is a French verb meaning to go out. If it is really the summoning wolf, it should be Lupustortia. The most common story used in naming is Norse mythology. Let me think about it. Soul. Wrong. Got it. SKLL. So Penelope took out a notebook from her pocket and started writing and drawing while talking to herself. You get it. Ryan said honest. He really regrets it now. He shouldn't have played that joke on Penelope. All I can say is that he spent more time with Kate during this period. Teased Penelope as Kate. He had forgotten how enthusiastic Penello, who had already obtained Ryan, was when faced with intellectual puzzles. Alice, I'm no longer Penelope's little cutie. Ryan couldn't help but think so. Well, if I'm not mistaken, it has something to do with light. Potter was once trained by you. He knows that the story of Norse mythology is most appropriate because they die the cleanest way. So it's not really a wolf, but it's borrowing the illusion of the sun chasing wolf skull swallowing the sun. The function of that spell is to expel, no, temporarily swallow the sunlight, creating the effect of darkness. Penelope said confidently. That's right, I think this has something to do with Regulus. He's a living inferi now and doesn't like sunlight, Kate interrupted. Yes, that's the function. Ryan replied with a sour face. By the way, I just wanted to ask you a question. Why do you still keep snakes at home? Kate couldn't suppress her curiosity. That's not a snake, it's a blood-cursed orc. You can call her Nagini, my new subject. Ryan said with a mysterious smile. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Dark Earth Mother. In fact, this incident happened sometime in mid-August, when Ryan and Kate returned to their respective homes after traveling. Nagini, or Nagini, is named after a half-human, half-snake creature or god in Hinduism who occasionally appears in human form. Among them, Nagi or Nagini refers specifically to women. She is from Indonesia. Because of the blood curse inherited from her mother, she can freely transform between human and snake, so she was named Nagini. In fact, based on her background, she shouldn't have been noticed by Ryan and taken back home. But unfortunately, two wizards who could be called the Dark Lord appeared in her life one after another. When she was still a little girl, she was captured by the Agonis circus and became one of them, as one of the freaks, as a selling point for the circus. There she also met the longest-lived Obscurus Creston, who was suspected to be a descendant of Dumbledore's family. Because of Creston, she also got to know Newt and even Grindelwald. After Creston's death, she lost the will to live, and with the spread of the blood curse, she became a true snake, with no memory of her human life. Later, She met the second-generation Dark Lord Voldemort, who could speak Parseltongue. Because she is a wizard who turned into a snake, in a sense, she is a brand new magical creature, 12 feet long. Her venom has the ability to slow down wound healing, and she has wisdom that ordinary snakes do not have, just wisdom, not including her memories as a human. Therefore, Voldemort likes her very much. In the original world line, he also used Nagini's snake venom and unicorn blood to prepare a black magic potion as part of his temporary body and enhance his strength. Finally, in the summer after Harry's junior year, Voldemort used the death of Old Frank, the Muggle guardian of Riddle Manor, to make Nagini the only living Horcrux he believed in. Share eternal life with him as the provider of venom, which was an important part of Voldemort's temporary body after he gave up the Philosopher's Stone. Nagini is undoubtedly an important being and one of Voldemort's most powerful helpers. Now that the diary has its own form, Voldemort must have learned about it after Dumbledore took the initiative to publicize it. So, Ryan kidnapped Nagini, who had not seen Voldemort for almost 11 years and was ordered to hide in a forest. After all, she was once a good witch. Ryan also didn't want Voldemort to do anything weird and ruin his daily life in the next school year. You know, Ryan had always planned to spend his sophomore year well and peacefully. As for surprises, isn't there already a young version of Voldemort? Moreover, there is the so-called blood curse that not even Dumbledore or Voldemort could break. Ryan was undoubtedly curious. What secrets are hidden behind this curse? Ryan also has the confidence and interest to break it. Ryan's mind was full of thoughts, and Penelope, who was beside Ryan, couldn't help but ask after hearing the rarest and most vicious term, blood curse, blood curse. Did I hear that right? As far as I know, the only carrier of this curse today is the Greengrass family among the sacred 28 clans. Was still a human, Ryan stroked his forehead and broke free from his memories. He knew that Kay could just ask a question and forget about it because it had nothing to do with gossip, but Penelope was different. Speechless, her name is Nagini, Ryan replied helplessly. Sure enough, the blood curse is indeed related to women. An excited smile appeared on Penelope's gentle face again. Kate sat at the takeaway of Florin's ice cream shop, which had now become an impregnable fortress, and ate a chocolate nut sundae ice cream out of boredom. She knew that Penelope's curiosity would keep them here for another 10 minutes. Yes, Penelope, you guess it right. But what you don't know is that the owner of this blood curse encountered once 2 Dark Lords, as well as Dumbledore. But they can't do anything about the curse. That's why I want to study curses, Ryan said. He mentioned the Dark Lord and Dumbledore first, hoping to avoid Penelope's detective radar, which had not yet completely disappeared. That Nagini must be very beautiful, right? However, Penelope still noticed something that Ryan was trying to avoid. That's right, we still don't know what kind of person Ryan is. That Nagini must be a great beauty. Kate, who was eating ice cream, suddenly became energetic curious. Kate jumped up. But Penelope was at a loss. As a standard Ravenclaw, she could not bear the rare knowledge. Kate, wait, I want to hear this first. As for the others, you can ask later. Ryan's mouth curled up slightly. Have you heard of Mahadeva? Is this related to Indian mythology? Penelope craned her neck, spread out her notebook, and intended to take notes. After being with Ryan for such a long time, Penelope learned a lot, the most important of which was the existence of gods. They are not the ignorant babblings of muggles, nor are they merely powerful wizards as imagined in today's magical society. Their abilities and longevity are worthy of the title of god. To be precise, Shiva's lover is goddess Sakti, who is the feminine side of Shiva. Only with her can Shiva be complete. And Sati, and her second life as Parvati, are actually just the product of the goddess Sakti descending from heaven as a human. The blood curse comes from Parvati, who has as many incarnations as Shiva, Ryan said. To be honest, even Ryan was shocked when he realized the source of the blood curse. This can be considered as a curse cast by Shiva himself, one of the 3 gods of India. Parvati? Which incarnation of her is that? I remember that Parvati liked to cast curses randomly, or maybe the entire Indian mythology, including the sages, likes to cast curses. Let me think. Durga. She is the embodiment of power, so she shouldn't be. Well, that only means Kali. She is the darkest and most tyrannical black earth goddess in Indian mythology. She has dark skin, a green face and fangs, and a third eye on her forehead like Shiva. She holds weapons in her forearms, wears a necklace of snakes and skulls, and has blood dripping from her tongue. Penelope guessed. Yes, this curse also contains the essence of the Dark Mother Earth. With the blood as the bond, it is better to say that it is a power than a curse. So only women can inherit. All the witches who died because of this, or lost their human form or even humanity, can only be said to be too fragile to bear the power of the gods. Ryan sighed. Chapter 285 Blessing. The power of the gods is undoubtedly a curse to today's wizards. As the incarnation of the gentle nurturing of goddess Shakti, how could Parvati, known as the Snow Mountain Goddess, cast such a vicious curse? This curse that spreads from the bloodline is actually a gift. Unlike the god of death in the UK who supposedly relied on utensils to carry his power, the Indian gods undoubtedly liked bestowing blessings. A blessing is a gift directly imparted to the body. In this way, the power of the gods was swayed and submerged into mortal objects or wizards who were also wizards but could no longer be called gods. The blessing on Nagini is that she can transform into a snake-like magical creature that evolves by itself, an achievement that ordinary wizards cannot achieve by relying on animagus. The blood curse on the Greengrass family, one of the 28 sacred clans, made all the female members of their family must be wizards, and there has never been a single squib. The essence of wizards is actually equivalent to gods, which is why the consequences of the blood curse on Greengrass are more serious. Death. Like Draco Malfoy's wife, Astoria Greengrass. In the original world line, she died suddenly in August 2019, 2 years after sending her son Scorpius to Hogwarts in good health. He died at the age of only 37. The power of the blood curse is undoubtedly terrifying. In fact, Ryan suspected one thing, that is, whether Voldemort's path to reaching level 6 and becoming a demigod wizard was related to the blood curse on Nagini. After all, the direction of Voldemort's magical transformation is too snake-like. And after Wormtail Peter Pettigrew returned to Voldemort, Voldemort naturally used Nagini's blood as part of his incarnation. It was so natural. To know a complete potion formula requires experimentation. In that state, Voldemort did not have the energy or materials to experiment. In this way, it is very likely that Voldemort's magical transformation refers to the power of the Dark Mother in the blood curse. This is actually a fragment of the power of the gods, which is actually very possible. Ryan also confirmed this after thinking about it. This is why Voldemort loves Nagini so much and is willing to make her a living Horcrux. Fragile? Aren't gods also wizards? They are just the most powerful of the first generation of wizards. Nagini and even Greengrass are also wizards, why can't they bear it? Penelope suddenly asked as she was writing on a page on the other side of her notebook that was used for drafts. Because they are wizards. So Nagini can maintain her humanity and human form for a long time after adulthood. Greengrasses usually die suddenly after middle age. Ryan replied. In fact, in Ryan's view, if Nagini did not often use her ability to turn into a snake and the witch from Greengrass did not use magic, then Nagini might die as a human and the witch from Greengrass would also die. They are wizards, but only to the extent of being wizards. Their wizard nature is already capable of standing, but they keep using snakes, turning into snakes, becoming wizards to perform magic, and the blessings will undoubtedly overwhelm their wizard nature, leading to the final collapse. Wait, so according to you, Nagini has experienced 2 Dark Lords and Dumbledore. Penelope noticed a blind spot. The carrier of the blood curse is undoubtedly rare, not to mention that it is a gift from the divine wizard mentioned by Ryan. The name Nagini has a distinct Indian style and is even regarded as the name of a god in some parts of India. Such a blood curse is undoubtedly very valuable. According to logical reasoning, Grindelwald, Dumbledore and even Voldemort should have come into contact with Nagini because of this blood curse. No, Penelope, you finally guessed wrong this time. Or not entirely true. Ryan finally smiled. Penelope puffed up his face. Grindelwald and even Dumbledore actually didn't realize the extraordinary nature of the blood curse. The 2 of them achieved level 6, firstly because of their own talents and extraordinary beliefs. Second, it was because of the blood alliance they made with each other. 2 powerful wizards who love each other but repel each other. I want to get closer, but I'm afraid of getting closer hurt. This mentality combined with their talents, the magic of the blood alliance, which is simply a promise not to harm each other, has evolved after their dramatic battle. The combination of magic and the refusal of the soul to get close to each other allows them to share perspectives, yet remain firmly enclosed in their own selves. That is the source of their strength. It can be said that it is a miracle that can never be created again. Ryan sighed. This is love. I am afraid that in this world, even Dumbledore cannot believe that Grindelwald achieved LV6 through love. It's just that his love is more intense and impure, so he lost to Dumbledore. A wizard who truly believes in love. Wait, then why are they approaching Nagini? I'm not completely wrong about what you said. So what does Voldemort rely on? Penelope asked her question. Kate pouted unhappily. They came into contact with Nagini because of the existence of another person, Credence Barebone, or Aurelius Dumbledore. Ryan nodded and said lightly. Kate finally opened her beautiful brown eyes. Gossip is coming. There is actually a Dumbledore. Is he Dumbledore's R? Or another Dumbledore? After all, Dumbledore also has a younger brother. He also had an aunt, Honoria, whom Lane had teased himself with allusions to her, the sinister form of Horcrux. Thinking of this, Kate couldn't help but show disgust. She thought of her Aunt Dumbledore's fiancé's terrible hobby of teasing Horcrux, pink, spiky, mushroom-like animals. And Ryan continued, Creston is one of the most powerful Obscurus in history and has the longest lifespan. Grindelwald used him as a weapon to subvert Muggle society, or as a substitute for Albus, Ryan said with a smile. Thanks to classmates 20220115110332204, Tashi Umisel, and Yuchi Jinain for their monthly tickets, and other classmates for their recommendations and subscriptions. Chapter 286 Sirius's Revenge. Greyston, or Aurelius Dumbledore, was an extraordinary person. After being nearly destroyed by American wizards, he achieved the ideal state of all previous Dumbledores, nirvana like a phoenix. Dumbledore and his ilk are actually a group that pursues immortality. There are two legends among them: whoever is in urgent need, the phoenix will appear. The other is, the baby bird finally has space, begins to stretch its wings, and becomes a big bird. The big bird is burning, and the phoenix is reborn. These two legends are embodied in Albus Dumbledore and Creston respectively. Albus Dumbledore saw him as another, more talented version of himself, and Grindelwald saw him as the hope of wizarding life. That's right, Creston is too strong, unreasonably strong. Born unreasonable level 6. But because it was not its own achievement, it was unstable and eventually failed. Under such circumstances, who would pay attention to the marginalized people in the magical society, the blood curse orcs? Although Nagini is very beautiful, she is Asian and does not really conform to the aesthetic standards of foreigners. What's more, Dumbledore and Grindelwald don't like women. There is no doubt that Voldemort likes women, as can be seen from the fact that he had an affair with Bella. What's more, Nagini is a snake, which deeply touches Voldemort's cuteness. No matter how you look at it, if she had not been just a snake at that time, she would probably have been further favored by Voldemort like Bella. But even so, in the original world line, Voldemort still caressed Nagini whenever he had time. You have to know that apart from this, the only things Voldemort touched were the wand and his own body. Furthermore, when Voldemort still had an incomplete body and needed Wormtail to serve him before he could drink milk, he did not forget to let Wormtail feed Nagini milk. No wonder Nagini, who lost her memory, was so loyal to Voldemort. Voldemort was too good to her. Ryan forced himself to suppress the urge to continue thinking about Nagini and Voldemort's own scandals. Continuing with the previous words, he continued to say to Kate and Penelope, and Voldemort obviously discovered that Nagini was extraordinary. Perhaps he initially discovered a snake-like magical creature that he had never seen before and that possessed superb intelligence. But that was when he was frantically pursuing intelligence, magical transformation to enhance himself. After all, he has a Horcrux. The magical transformation that is life-threatening in the eyes of ordinary wizards is just a slightly troublesome sequelae for him. The existence of Nagini undoubtedly helped him find the key and reach level 6 simply by magical transformation, Ryan said. Even now, he couldn't help but sigh at Voldemort's audacity. If Ryan didn't have any cheats, relying solely on his talent as a descendant of Peverell, at his age he would be at best at the level of the Hogwarts professors. But Ryan, have you forgotten why we are here? Kate reminded. Seeing that there was nothing that interested her, Kate was ready to turn the topic of Voldemort. How could I forget? Even now, I couldn't have imagined it would develop like this. Special correspondent Rita Skeeter reports that the eccentric Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, has always dared to hire controversial teachers. This year he hired an unknown young wizard as the teacher of defense against the dark arts, But what was even more surprising was that this wizard rushed to publish a book called Magic for Muggles, which had nothing to do with defense against the dark arts, just before he took office. It is reported that the Department of Mysteries, the most mysterious department of the Ministry of Magic, once wanted to ban this book through unknown means. But for some reason, within just 1 hour of issuing a statement, they hastily withdrew it as if nothing had happened. There is no doubt that this is something that Dumbledore, known as the greatest white wizard, can do. So, how could an unknown wizard who had no experience of studying in a prestigious school become a professor? Furthermore, a newly published book can be used as a textbook for the Defense Against the Dark Arts course? Many people may not understand. Some enthusiastic people even said, "My child is in the 2nd grade this year." You know, the 2nd grade only needs to buy standard spells, level 2, written by Miranda Goshawk, and the books for other courses are the same as those for the 1st grade. But now, we have to buy a new book, which makes our already poor family even worse off. Rita Skeeter said, "This is clearly a money grab by the new professor." Furthermore, in July, the new professor openly went shopping in Diagon Alley with Dumbledore and bought many daily necessities and even a new wand. According to rumors, the mysterious wizard might be Dumbledore's son. Daedalus Digg, a die-hard fan of Dumbledore and a member of the Order of the Phoenix, firmly believe this statement. But others say that this is most likely Dumbledore's new love. "He is very handsome," said the knowledgeable Madame Walkin. That being said, it is not impossible. But in any case, I hope that this new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor will not affect the quality of teaching in the next year. Rita Skeeter said anxiously, "I hope, for the first time, that I am wrong." After reading the newspaper, Kate, who knew the inside story, was stunned. This Rita Skeeter is going to die right. Our Here to Buy was written by him. I was wondering why our Ryan was going out for this book today. There was no doubt that Penelope had long since gotten rid of the phobia of Voldemort that most wizarding families have. She clearly understood the level of Ryan's magic. To be honest, it's a good thing that she didn't become arrogant enough to cause trouble everywhere. Why be afraid of Voldemort? So, she only had excitement about Voldemort's knowledge. Beating a dog also depends on the owner. This young version of Voldemort is now on Dumbledore's side. Voldemort was still very aggressive in the face of the Ministry of Magic, but he was helpless against Sirius, who is also Dumbledore's subordinate. Sirius Black also understands this deeply. He thought it was not a good thing for his godson, Harry. Voldemort becomes a professor. This is revenge, his revenge on Dumbledore, and it's disgusting. Ryan commented lightly. This is also the real reason why he doesn't want any monsters to cause trouble this school year. He was curious about how Voldemort would be like a teacher, and what would be written about Muggles in that book. Chapter 287 Molly Weasley's Letter. Rita Skeeter's choice of parents of sophomores as her entry point was a very smart one. Because most of the books on the Hogwarts first-year students' reading list will be used in the 2nd year, or even the 7th year. In fact, the only book that 2nd-year students need is Standard Spells, Level 2. Magic, which is useful in all classes except those where wands are not required. The same is true for Philidaspar's 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi, with the only difference being that in the 6th grade, an additional book, the Complete Book of Carnivorous Trees, will be added as a textbook for the Herbal class. Newt Scamander's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is also to be used until graduation. It is actually not officially used until the 3rd grade, but the reason why it is purchased in advance is that it is more or less mentioned in other classes. For example, the Potions class requires the organs of magical creatures as potion materials. Ditto for Quentin Trimble's Dark Forces, a guide to self-defense, for Defense Against the Dark Arts classes. Potions is undoubtedly the course that uses the most books. In addition to Arsene Jigger's Magical Pharmacy and Potion, which will be used until the 5th grade, 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi is also an indispensable textbook. For Transfiguration classes, both 1st and 2nd graders will use Emery Sweeky's Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration. That's why our Ryan marveled at the accuracy of Rita Skeeter's insertion points. As a new professor, especially one who has no fame himself, adding new books as teaching materials will undoubtedly be criticized by parents. Like in the original timeline, even a top star like Gilderoy Lockhart, requiring all students to buy his 7 books, caused some bad reactions. For example, the Weasley family even went to Gringotts to withdraw money due to unexpected expenses. You know, although they spend money lavishly, they never leave any spare money. With 5 children still attending Hogwarts, this meant they needed to buy an extra 5 Gilderoy Lockhart books. You know, these books are not cheap. Even Molly Weasley, Gilderoy Lockhart's die-hard fan, couldn't help but complain. In fact, new professors, such as the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor who changes every year, usually add additional books as teaching materials. This is also why, even though this course was cursed, it was still popular before Quirrell's death. To make money, a little risk is nothing. Keeluo didn't do this because he was too honest and he wasn't trying to make money. Lockhart actually did the same thing as the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor a long time ago, except that he was just too ugly. Lupin didn't do that, and thought the worst of him, probably because he was a werewolf and couldn't find a bookseller to cooperate with. On the bright side, it was because he had been poor before and wanted to save money for his students. Mad-Eye Moody and Crouch Jr. believed that textbooks were useless, so they naturally did not purchase new ones. Dolores Jane Umbridge, the most unpopular Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, chose the book Magical Defense Theory as the new textbook. On the one hand, it can make money, and on the other hand, it can tame the unruly people in the eyes of the Ministry of Magic. The author of this book, Wilbert Slinka, is a pacifist who advocates a passive approach to conflict and opposes the use of aggressive spells, even for defensive purposes. His book is closer to the non-resistance policy of a famous figure in the Muggle world. As for Snape, when he was the professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts, he chose the book Encounter with a Faceless Monster. He didn't do it for money, but just thought that students needed to see something truly dangerous. Amicus, the Death Eater, was the professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts in the 7th grade of the original world line. His classroom became a place to punish students and teach dangerous black magic. No new books are needed. At all the professors of Defense Against the Dark Arts in the past, except for the abnormal ones, they all chose new books as their teaching materials. So Ryan was not surprised by Voldemort's choice of new book. It is logical to choose a book as a textbook that is more in line with your teaching philosophy. However, Ryan had recently learned about Voldemort's ignorance of Muggle knowledge from the conversation between the young version of Voldemort and Dumbledore. Muggle World was born, and it is also a textbook for the Defense Against the Dark Arts class. If you just want to talk about the Muggle world, Hogwarts also has corresponding Muggle studies classes. That means the content must be very complicated. You know, the Department of Mysteries of the Ministry of Magic has even issued a notice for this. Although they quickly cowered under Voldemort's iron fist, it did not mean that they did not value the contents of Voldemort's new book. That book contains something that subverts the existing wizarding worldview. It must contain content about space, rockets, and the moon landing. What exactly is in that book? Wait. I can't think about it. I have to keep it fresh. Thinking of this, Ryan didn't want to wait any longer. He pulled Penelope and Kate and walked quickly towards today's final stop, Flourish and Blots. Ryan, who is the parent of that unknown student. Kate, who was not interested in the book written by Voldemort himself, asked about the gossip. She knew that news about Ryan was always inexplicitly spread, and Ryan would know it no matter what. Even if you asked Ryan what Dumbledore ate yesterday, Ryan will know. Not to mention this unknown person. Molly Weasley. Ryan had a strange smile on his face. He had just thought about the answer. Kate looked puzzled. Gilderoy Lockhart. Even though he was in prison, Molly Weasley, a fan, still subconsciously had a slight hostility towards this unknown professor who, in her eyes, had taken over her idol position. In fact, she wouldn't have written a letter anyway, because that unknown professor seemed to have a good relationship with Dumbledore. But Sirius brought her a piece of news that angered her. The so-called new teaching materials were rushed out within a month. This is why. Ryan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After all, Molly Weasley was a traditional wizarding parent who expected her children to work at the Ministry of Magic. The issue of education is Molly Weasley's Achilles heel. Chapter 288 Nocturne Alley. As the sun sets, the cobblestone ground turns dim. The scattered wizards on the street also began to return to their homes. Penelope's golden curly hair gleamed in the dim sunlight, and a slight blush appeared on her fair face. Kate was hopping around like a rabbit, grabbing Ryan's right hand. Ryan, let's just go back. If this continues, Penelope will probably still be immersed in that ghost book even after dark. Kate raised her head boredly and looked at Ryan eagerly. She knew what kind of abilities Ryan had. For example, when she was traveling with Ryan before, Ryan waved his hand and a gray thing called a dimensional wall appeared. As they walked towards it, they appeared in Albania, the place to travel. No, don't you think it's weird in Diagon Alley at this time? Ryan refused softly. Kate's mouth was pursed, almost hanging a bottle of oil. Wizarding World, but it is not as brightly lit as other trading centers. On the contrary, as soon as dusk falls, all shops except those near the Leaky Cauldron will be closed. Late at night, the Leaky Cauldron was the only bar with lights on. This is actually all because of Diagon Alley's neighbor, Nocturne Alley. At night, when Nocturne Alley officially opens, dark wizards from all over the world gather here to exchange their collections. But things have been different lately, or at least they have been different since Ryan started sweeping Nocturne Alley. Dark wizards still exist. However, those guys who killed innocent people indiscriminately and committed evil deeds all disappeared one by one. Other slightly better lands were also taken in by Borgin and Burke, contributing to Borgin's industry of pirating Skywalker's alchemy workshop. Today, Nocturne Alley might as well be a giant flea market. Many items banned by the Ministry of Magic are traded here. The most interesting thing is Fudge. He thinks all this is his own credit, and he even boldly takes people to Nocturne Alley for a secret patrol. Finally, outside London, I have reappeared naked. During the few days when he was gone, the efficiency of the Ministry of Magic improved again. He also brazenly attempted to order the closure of Nocturne Alley for Fudge, who is he, and Fudge, once again, mistakenly believed that all this was due to Dumbledore. Dumbledore's reputation means his orders are not respected. So he once again discussed with his chief military advisor Umbridge how to discredit Dumbledore. Well, the new defense against the dark arts professor is pretty good, said Fudge after reading the Daily Prophet. Knowing all this, Ryan couldn't help but pray for Fudge and Umbridge, praying that they would not end up worse than in the original world line when facing Voldemort, entering Azkaban. However, there is another possibility. Ryan noticed one thing, that is, after Fudge's two sudden disappearances, the Ministry of Magic had discovered that it would be better without him. His trick of using Dumbledore's power to bully others was no longer useful. Especially now that he is actively trying to get rid of Dumbledore's influence. Maybe Fudge would be gone before Voldemort could make his move. This was very possible. Fudge is a man who lives up to his name. Very blessed. Because of a Crouch Senior's downfall, his correspondence with Dumbledore, and the need for a seemingly gentle minister in peacetime, the incompetent him unexpectedly came to power. In the original world line, on the eve of Voldemort's official comeback, he was lucky enough to step down, unlike the unlucky Scrimgeour who lost his life. Even in the end, he didn't stay in Azkaban for long. Maybe, this time he will step down early because of his own good fortune. That would be hilarious if that were true. But it all started with Ryan, his cleanup of Nocturne Alley. It is also because of this that Diagon Alley at night, away from the Leaky Cauldron, can be visited by people. There are fewer people now, but people are not used to it yet. In addition, there is the impact of Fudge's disappearance here not long ago. As the night deepened, Ryan and the other two, who had cast magic to reduce their presence in the surroundings, gradually began to retreat. But it was more because of Penelope who had come to her senses. We can go now. But I never imagined Nocturne Alley would be so lively at night, Kate said half expectantly and half hesitantly. I was looking forward to it because I had been thinking about going home for a long time. The reason for her hesitation was that she found herself unusually curious about the hustle and bustle of Nocturne Alley. Shall we go shopping some more? Penelope said hesitantly, noticing Kate's expression. She was very embarrassed now, having watched for so long without realizing it. Wasted so much of his time. Since Kate wants everyone to go shopping, let her go. A dingy alleyway lined with shops that seem to deal in the dark arts. The shop windows on the street displayed some shrunken human heads in a gloomy manner, a large cage filled with huge black spiders, green poisonous candles, and stacks of what appeared to be dead people's fingernails. That's what happened when Ryan and his friends passed by during the day. But now, although those disgusting things still exist, they have become inconspicuous in the night. What's more, various stalls have been set up on the stone floor that has become as white as a mirror to Ryan and the others' surprise. There were no obvious, disgusting, or horrifying black magic props here. On the contrary, this place is more like a wholesale market for magic potions, the kind that specializes in wholesale of precious items and is not allowed to be sold directly. The black, calloused feet of a giant monster, the green, crystal clear venom of a necromantic spider, the hot blood of a unicorn with a cursed smell, the feathers of a thunderbird that shines with lightning and is locked in an insulated, transparent bottle. In addition, on the other side, some brand new, strangely shaped ones caught Kate's attention. Next second their unnoticed existence reappeared and twisted into 3 burly black-robed wizards. Before Ryan and the others could say anything, the old man at the stall said in a tone that seemed arrogant but actually lacked confidence, "Look. This is my latest wand, Dream Traveler Poplar, Dual Master Red Oak, Soul Messenger Silver Basswood, Extraordinary Laurel White Ash." Then, in Ryan's mind, Kate's excited voice sounded, so cool, I want it even if it's a transfiguration. Chapter 289 Kate bleeding. I am speechless. I am completely speechless. Ryan never imagined that he would find his own property in Nocturne Alley, and he even harmed his own people. Kate, these wands are actually the products of Ryan's alchemy. The power is equivalent to the original wand, that is, the wand wood number of humans are magical. Initially, the ability to identify the wood that could be used to make an original wand required years of experience, and wandmakers at that time valued the ability to find the right wood. As for making a magic wand, it doesn't require any extra effort. Can't you just pick it up and use it? Ancestors of modern wandmakers thought otherwise, but due to the rarity of wand woods, they did not have the courage to experiment. And one discovery changed all that. Ollivander's ancestors discovered that all trees that could be used to produce magic wands were inhabited by botricles. As a result, the appearance of magic wands began to change, becoming more refined and beautiful, and no longer just being bent down for use. Because Ollivander's discovery made wand wood no longer rare, and a wizard who carved and polished the wood in his hand for the reason of making his wand look better proved that the appearance of the wand wood does not affect its power. Over time, wizards learned to stuff wood with powerful magical substances. As for why wood and magical substances can complement each other, this is the most precious core secret of wand learning, which wizards do not allow other races to know. The power of the wands made by Ryan can be imagined. He spent a lot of wand wood, precious alchemical materials, and even the most expensive core part, only to produce a wand that is as powerful as the wand wood just plucked from the tree. They have a cool style, referring to the design of Ryan's wand from the Harry Potter dress-up game in his previous life. But Ryan was disdainful of his too weak power, and he was also embarrassed to ruin the reputation of his own Skywalker alchemy workshop. It was then handed over to some of Smith's old employees to sell. As long as you sell one, you will get a high commission. But that also means, these wands don't come cheap. So, until now, only one of these demonstration products has been sold, a cool-looking wand with a green light of death called the Extraordinary Guide Elderwood. The victim was Malfoy. Not Draco Malfoy though. What Ryan didn't expect was that it would be Lucius Malfoy. All I can say is that this wand with a strong appearance of dark magic attracted him strongly. Couldn't be happy. Kate, calm down, these are just for show. Ryan couldn't help but reply in his mind. What's wrong with just for show? Kate replied in her mind, and considering that she was now a big man in a black robe, she pretended to be powerful and asked the stall owner, "Hey, how much are these wands?" The old man shrank his neck, but when he thought about how the victim was defeated in the same way not long ago, he regained his confidence. These wands, each one is 100 gold galleons, 100. Kate's eyes widened. Although she knew Ryan was not short of money now, the high price still stimulated her bargaining gene. Ollivander's wand only costs 10 galleons at most. You know, he is the best wand maker in Britain. Ollivander. The deliberately sloppy-looking old man sneered, our wands are made of many rare metals and have advanced magical effects. How can Ollivander's cheap stuff compare to mine? And, if there is no discount, the price of Ollivander's wand is also around 50 gold galleons. Kate frowned. She had never heard of any subsidies. She looked at Ryan, who immediately understood Kate's confusion and agreed to indicate that the old man was right. So what are their advantages? I mean, apart from the appearance. Kate noticed something from the sparse crowd around the stall. 100 gold galleons may not be a big deal to the consumers here, especially since there are so many and precious potion ingredients here. They didn't even blink when they bought them just now. There must be something wrong with this wand. The old man's wrinkled face twitched. Ryan didn't know whether to be happy about this. It seemed to him that his employee had figured out how to sell these wands. As a salesperson, the most important thing is confidence in telling the whole truth. And Lucius Malfoy, the victim, had given him these. Presumably, even without Ryan and the others, he would place orders again in the days ahead. I must be very clever. What's the name of this wand and how much is it? Kate said in a deep voice, pointing to a magic wand with a hollow ball on the top and blue electric sparks flashing inside the ball. Amazing, really amazing, sir. This is our family's trump card. It's very hard, a thunderbird feather, 13.5 inches, made of pine. As for its name, I think you can call it Thunder Feather Loop Pine. The old man exclaimed and clapped his hands exaggeratedly. Penelope wanted to say something, but when she saw Kate's slightly excited body language, she didn't speak. Forget it, the money is not that much. Kate and I have earned a lot of money over the years by helping Ryan with painting and dubbing. Even if this magic wand is useless, it can be used as a candle in the dark. Penelope thought. Is this one also worth 100 gold galleons? Kate asked casually. If you really want it, I can give you a discount for your good taste. The old man flattered. Discount. Kate was so overjoyed that she forgot she was still a big man and stamped her feet happily like a little girl. Huh? This wand can be discounted. How come my boss didn't know this? Ryan thought in surprise. So much so that Ryan subconsciously looked at himself, wondering if his camouflage magic had been exposed, allowing the old man to find out that he was his boss. 99 gold galleons, and I'll give you a 1 galleon wand cover, said the old man this time. Even Kate couldn't help but stand there for a moment, gritted her teeth and said, okay, I'll buy it. Chapter 290 Thoughts on the eve of school opening. In Nottingham Forest, many miles away from Nocturne Alley, a white mist like snow was now spreading along a narrow but luxurious path. The path is winding, but the ground is paved with exquisite bricks and stones carved with various mighty and mysterious creatures. Not far away, a huge tower stood majestically. It was a tower shining with beautiful light, no sign of life around. Only a fat black cat sneaked out of the forest and came to the path, stretched itself, and yawned, as if waiting for someone. At this moment, with a sound of bubbles being punctured, 3 figures cuddling together appeared out of nowhere on the path. The fat cat's eyes widened, and it raised its round head. It turned into a black shadow and rushed towards the figure in the middle. So, Ryan, who was transferred to the tree-lined path outside Smith Castle through the dimensional wall, had no time to express his depression or talk to Kate and Penelope, before a heavy ball of fur jumped into his arms. Jerry. Why are you so fat now? Penelope curiously touched the kitten in Ryan's arms. Jerry turned around and pointed his butt at Penelope, cursing. Is he scolding me? Penelope felt angry and amused all day, but Dr. Flywheel, the hamster, didn't care about these teasings. Penelope, Jerry used to be a well-proportioned girl. She can't stand hearing this. Ryan scratched Jerry's chin lightly. She squinted her eyes comfortably and her tail wagged briskly from side to side. I say, don't you want to say something? I don't exist. Kate puffed up her face. She took out 3 wands. In addition to the Thunder Feather Loop Pine wand that she had chosen, which was flashing with electric sparks, she also bought 2 for Ryan and Penelope with her own money. Ryan's staff was filled with a black aura, with spiral patterns on the handle and a natural dragon head-shaped staff made of blackthorn wood. It's called Dragon Knight Blackthorn, and it goes well with Ryan's White Knight and Black Knight. The top of Penelope's staff was inlaid with a large piece of round, strip-shaped yellow crystal, and the staff exuded a golden aura that could be seen with the naked eye. Its name is the acacia wood of the Staff of Time. Kate looked at the 3 beautiful ones dejectedly, not knowing what to say. Didn't I tell you I'd pay the bill? Ryan said helplessly after waking up from the joy of petting the cat. He knew these ones all too well. To be honest, he didn't understand why the wand was like this. Like the Dragon Knight Blackthorn, he did not do it like in the dress-up game in his previous life and use the troll's beard as the core of the staff. Instead, he used the dragon's heartstring roadside. Okay, aren't you curious about what Voldemort wrote? You know, even the Department of Mysteries couldn't help but stop it from being revealed. What kind of mysterious forbidden knowledge is this? Penelope said mysteriously, signaling Ryan with her eyes. It was obvious that she wanted Ryan to cooperate and distract Kate from the wand. After all, Kate is a Ravenclaw, so she should be attracted to her, right? But Kate wasn't curious at all. It's just Voldemort, Kate said frustratedly. She seemed to be both happy and sad, and kept admiring the exquisitely crafted magic wand in her hand, but she couldn't stop feeling heartbroken. It's not that she doesn't like knowledge, but Kate has long been addicted to the journey to Atlantis and the things that occasionally leak out of Ryan's mouth. As for Penelope, to be honest, She spent most of her time on vacation on trips organized by her parents, who loved to travel around. Although she liked to communicate by letter, almost one every day, she could never compare to Kate, who ran around with Ryan. In Kate's opinion, even Voldemort was written with nothing more than some vulgar sayings and phrases, and was also bound by the old, inaccurate, and idealistic knowledge of the wizarding world. One can imagine how the following days will be spent. Kate sighed all day long for the gold galleon she had lost, while Penelope spent all day communicating with Ryan to learn about the Muggle world and comparing it with everything in Voldemort's book. Ryan was a little disappointed with Voldemort's book. The content here did surprise Ryan, but that was all he was surprised about. In this book, Voldemort, or more precisely, the young version of Tom Riddle, you describe the Muggle world's food, clothing, housing, transportation, the definition of science, the convenience of travel, and the speed of their transportation from a Muggle's perspective, as well as major events that have taken place in the Muggle world in this century, such as the moon landing and the atomic bomb explosion. It's hard to believe that this is a book that could be written by an anti-Muggle, wizard supremacist who has been out of touch with Muggle knowledge for decades. Different from the content taught in Muggle studies class that emphasizes strengths and avoids weaknesses, his book does not contain any invisible flattery of wizards, nor does it ignore some things in the Muggle world that should shock wizards. For example, for an atomic bomb, Tom's book describes in detail its yield, the temperature at its core, and the radiation. It was not like the casual comment in the Muggle studies class that a powerful bomb could be intercepted by a few dozen wizards with good transfiguration skills. As for the Muggle world's means of transportation, Tom will also make a detailed comparison with the speed of the fastest Nimbus 2001 today, as well as the wizarding world's misunderstandings about Muggle transportation. That is, you can ride a broom close to a fighter jet without being blown off the broom or even dying due to the air pressure caused by it. These things were only very advanced in terms of the content of Muggle studies. His book only broke the invisible ignorance of wizards by the magical world. Let wizards have a clearer understanding of Muggle society. But none of this matters to Ryan. He was only surprised because the person who wrote the book was Tom Riddle. Now, Ryan was just curious about one thing, how he would talk about the contents of these books, the dark arts, or did he simply teach Muggle studies, and only took on the title of Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor because of the curse? Why? Ryan held back his thinking. Now he can clearly predict the future through thinking. Keeping things fresh is what Ryan should do most at this moment. Besides, school is about to start. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Moon. Time quickly came to September 9th, the first day of school at Hogwarts. In late August, Kate and Penelope had returned to their respective homes and were ready to start pretending to be in the unfamiliar Hogwarts daily life with Ryan. During the days they were away, Ryan finally had time to study Nagini. Before this, perhaps because they knew that Nagini was a woman, and Kate even got a photo of Nagini at the Agonis Circus from somewhere, Ryan never had the chance to get close to her and slowly stroke Nagini's cold body with his hands. Ryan felt very wrong. He was not doing anything pornographic. Like Dumbledore did not abandon his wand and use his hands to measure and sense in order to check Regulus. When it comes to perceiving magic, using hands and eyes is more appropriate than a wand. Penelope and the others should also understand this of the blood curse, read on Ryan and agreed in agreement. This blood curse, Shala, is so powerful. In short, as school was about to start, Ryan had to hold Jerry, who had now become a fat cat, and bid farewell to Nagini in tears. You know, it's summer now. How can you sleep at night without a cold snake body? What are you looking at? On you? Fat cat Jerry. Train early and sat in an empty compartment, playing pool with his little cat as usual. Because he found that since the little guy grew fat, he just slept all day and was no longer available when called like at the beginning. How daring to repair a cat. Needs to be rectified. This time, Ryan deliberately sat near the train entrance. He also covered the entire compartment with his passive, so that only the little wizard Ryan thought was qualified could notice it on the door curiously. Hello, I think this place should be empty. The little witch said in a dazed tone, her eyes fixed on Ryan, as if she had discovered something extraordinary. Of course, Ryan said contact Her intuition was too sensitive and she didn't look good from Harry's perspective. After all, Pansy is not that good. Although she is pretty, it is also true that she looks like a poodle. This shows that Harry's perspective is still accurate. But no one expected that Harry, the absolutely fair and beautiful judge, would suffer a Waterloo at the hands of Luna's startled expression. She was clearly mad, and to be on the safe side, she stuck her wand behind her left ear, wore a necklace made of butterbeer corks, and read magazines upside down. But Ryan's opinion was completely different. He felt that Harry must be seriously ill. Luna's hair was indeed very messy, but it was not dirty. It was more like white with gold. Perhaps it was that hidden gold that made Harry feel that Luna's hair was a little dirty. The most likely reason is that this hair color is very similar to Draco Malfoy's, the guy he hated the most in the original world line. The hair was so fluffy, which reminded Harry of Hermione at the beginning, who was also annoying. As for the bulging eyes, they were also very cute on Luna's small round face. However, Ryan thought that Harry's criticism of Luna might be related to another person, that is, the divination professor Sybil Trelawney. In Harry's eyes, Trelawney has always been a ghostly guy, who also made Harry look at Luna with a similar temperament in a different light. I kept complaining about it subconsciously for a while. However, Ryan believes that Luna is qualified for more than just her looks. I discovered one thing, which was Luna's amazing wizard intuition. She always noticed things that others overlooked, loopholes in words, omissions in spells, unnatural emotions, etc. She seems to have a natural magnifying glass, and she relies more on intuition, so she often makes others feel unnatural intuition. This is the qualification that Ryan recognizes. It had nothing to do with Luna fitting his aesthetic. In this regard, even Harry was just more sensitive to magic, and in the original world line he had always been with the little lion, and his impulsive personality concealed the intuition that went straight to the root of the matter, which was embodied in the essence of a wizard. Can I know your name? I'm curious about you. When Ryan was thinking about whether there was anyone else who could watch this room, Luna said directly. She is just like that, unpretentious and unaffected. Coupled with her poor personality and her talent, it is no wonder that Ravenclaw, which claims to be willing to accommodate weirdos, can't tolerate her. Leon Smith. Ryan observed the strange little witch without any concealment. Luna also stared into Ryan's moon-white eyes, not shy at all. A normal little witch would have been defeated at the speed of light if she had looked at Ryan's handsome and almost devilish face, but Luna did not react at all and did not even blink. Other little wizards can't see this house. What kind of magic is this? Also, you are very beautiful, especially the color of your eyes, the same as mine. Can we be friends? Luna said without hesitation. This is the magic that we Smiths are born with, just like Metamorphmagus can naturally change his face and even the color of his hair. Finally, I want to say, why not? You are cute too. Ryan stretched out his slender right hand. Luna also stretched out her short hand, shook it quickly, and then took it back, as if Ryan had put a branding iron in his hand. It seems she is still shy. Cute? My dad also said I'm cute, but I noticed that other people don't seem to like me very much. Luna said confusedly, and then looked at Ryan without any shyness, as if she could see flowers. That's because you are different from others, but that's not a bad thing. It can help you get rid of a group of friends who care too much about other people's opinions. They usually bring you more troubles, and in the end you either become indistinguishable from the crowd, or become a weirdo in the eyes of others. Ryan looked back at her without any shyness. She's just a little girl. How could I be afraid of her? Is that so? Then I can't bother to harass you. It's so scary. Fortunately, I have a friend like Ryan now. Luna said in a tone that was almost gentle, and it didn't make people feel that she was afraid at all. Chapter 292 Malfoy's hegemony reappears. In the cubicle of Hogwarts, Luna and Ryan didn't know how long they looked at each other. Anyway, Luna couldn't help but took out a copy of the Quibbler and held it high to cover her face. The train had already started moving. Luna's little ears moved a few times. She lowered the magazine slightly, revealing only her light-colored eyes, and looked at Ryan through it. Why can't I hear any sound? Soundproof bat. Ryan raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said softly, "What are soundproof bats?" Luna was obviously very interested. She even put down the Quibbler in her hand, supported her elbows on the table, and leaned her little face towards Ryan, wanting to hear more clearly. However, this made the distance between them very close, And Ryan could even feel the warm breeze brought by Luna when she spoke on her face. Well, it seems that Luna likes eating tomatoes very much. Noise-proof. Bats are like ghosts, but they are invisible. They like to be close to wizards, but they hate too many wizards. Ryan approached Luna instead of retreating. Luna subconsciously stepped back, her eyes widening. So, they will get close to wizards who are too immersed in their own world and are alone, like the two of us. Then, the surroundings will become very quiet because they block out all the sounds from the outside world. Well, I like them very much. They allow me to concentrate on reading. But there is also a disadvantage. Sometimes when I'm reading, I can't hear my father calling me to eat. Luna nodded seriously, indicating that she had learned it. But the next second, she said, then they definitely don't eat harassing bowls. They are invisible, they will float into your ears and mess up your mind. I just felt that my mind was messy, there must be a few here, and I am still confused now. While looking at Ryan, Luna explained the setting of harassment seriously. I think, your behavior may not be due to harassment. Ryan said in a long voice. Yet, you're the harasser. Luna raised the magazine again to cover herself and whispered. What? Ryan pretended not to hear. I mean, aren't you my friend? Why didn't you ask my name? Luna's voice was no longer ethereal, and she stammered. It's obvious that he's trying to change the subject. I don't think it's a gentleman's thing to ask a cute girl her name. Ryan smiled. Luna didn't say anything, but from the white fingertips she had been holding the magazine so tightly, it was clear that she was not calm. My name is Luna, Luna Lovegood. Luna said in a voice as small as a okay, I get it, my new friend's name is Luna, Ryan said. However, this made Luna even more shy, as she now knew that Ryan must have heard what she said before. Because when she said her name, she was much smaller than just now filled the entire room. No, I think you should like it. Ryan made a gesture to welcome the meal. Before Luna made any move, Jerry ran to the small bowl on the ground. It was filled with very soft stewed beef. It was still bulging, like a little squirrel with cheeks. After the meal, the sky outside the window also became slightly dim. The table was clean and tidy again. No one could have imagined that someone had spilled soup all over the table because he was not accustomed to using chopsticks. In the end, Ryan had to feed him. Luna was now hiding behind the magazine again, pretending to read something. Luna, what are you looking at? As for the Malfoy family, wizards now have the impression that they are just opportunistic villains and a family of thorough Death Eaters. But don't forget that under the unknown Malfoy, Septimus Malfoy, the Ministry of Magic was once ruled by his puppet, Angie Osbert. Therefore, the Malfoy family has both the strength and the ambition to rule the Ministry of Magic again. The Elder Wand is the most powerful wand that has been proven to exist in the world and is the only one of the three brothers in the legend of the Tales of Beedle, the bard that is well known in the British wizarding world. Whoever possesses it will be able to use it to gain the most powerful authority in the world. And as our title says, according to an unknown person who stayed in Diagon Alley late at night, it was late that day and the sky was dark, but I think I will never forget that scene until I die. It was Lucius Malfoy. He was grinning evilly in the moonlight, and the Elder Wand shining with the green light of death was clenched in his hand. Fortunately, I fell to the ground immediately. It was dark, so I survived. What kind of magic wand can emit green light all over? What wand is made from elderberry? What kind of wand could make the stern Lucius Malfoy laugh so hard that he forgets himself? We didn't dare to make random guesses, so we were so rigorous that we even sent letters to all the wand makers in Europe. They all answered in unison that they did not make the wand in the unknown person's mouth. They can't do it either. We couldn't believe it, so we went to ask Ollivander, the world's greatest wand maker. He also admitted that if the wand was really like the unknown person said, he couldn't do it. Then there is only one possibility. Lucius Malfoy obtained the legendary most powerful wand. Well written, Ryan commented. My father is the editor of this magazine. Luna's tone suddenly became light. I think this is very likely to be true. The Malfoy family showed this tendency before they got the Elder Wand. For example, Draco Malfoy became friends with Harry Potter and their family's mortal enemy Ron Weasley through unknown means. Even Sirius, the Death Eater, was acquitted. Luna said seriously. Chapter 293 Loudmouthed Ron. As Luna kept telling Ryan about the dangers of the Malfoy family and the legendary Deathly Hallows, Ryan kept staring at her, and her voice became smaller and smaller until it was almost inaudible. Ryan, Do you have any questions? Luna couldn't help but lift her hair, and glanced at herself in the glass window to see if there was anything strange. I was wondering, how does Luna know so much? Ryan looked at Luna's unconsciously pouting lips. The oily sheen on her lips from eating too hastily due to being too hungry was like a natural lip gloss, making it particularly attractive. Oh my. How could this be? It's all Nagini's fault that I was led astray. Ryan complained in his heart. Because I like reading. I want to be a Ravenclaw, like my parents. At the end, Luna's voice unconsciously fell, but the next second, she gathered her spirits and said in a singing voice, "Extraordinary intelligence is a man's greatest wealth." A good choice. I am the little wizard of Ravenclaw, Ryan said. He didn't ask Luna's parents, and no one with eyes open would mention it. Luna's performance just now was already very obvious. He's not Ron. Ryan couldn't help but feel lucky that he wasn't with Ron. Otherwise, it would have been a real bummer compartment. She must have known that Ryan was in it. On the other side, Hermione happened to think of Ryan in her mind. It was outside a compartment at the end of the car, and Hermione, with her brown hair and rat teeth, was standing there stealthily. Ron's voice came from the cubicle. The voice was very loud, but the person who made the voice seemed to be unaware of how loud his voice was, and how shocking the content of his words was. My mother was furious, because Lockhart had been caught and because we were buying this book written by Voldemort. You know, this costs 1 gold galleon. But my dad really likes it. That's before he knows the author is Voldemort. Ron complained, waving a book next to him were Harry and Draco. The compartment they were in at the moment might as well have been a pile of snacks, licorice wands, BB multi-flavor beans, chocolate frogs and all kinds of weird snacks filled the entire compartment. The gray-haired mouse Banban was lying on a piece of pumpkin pie, licking it from time to time. I think this Voldemort is more terrifying. Like the Voldemort we know, he is ignorant, arrogant, and even makes some ridiculous mistakes in placing the magic trap of the heart. He is even willing to learn things that he despises in his eyes, the Muggles. And judging from the content of this book, he is much more advanced than most wizards today. I think he can even be compared with Ron's father. Harry muttered to himself, flipping through everything in the book with a determined look. It seems that I want to find some ridiculous concepts in it. However, it is completely different from the normal Muggle studies class. It is not like they only focus on teaching wizards and Muggles how to dress, how to make trains and buses, and even how to use electrical appliances. If the normal content of Muggle studies classes teaches a wizard how to behave like a real Muggle in the Muggle world without making any mistakes, then this Muggle knowledge named Defense Against the Dark Arts is a real data-based reminder for wizards of the true appearance of Muggle items. How fast are the most advanced trains? Compare them with Nimbus 2001. The more he read the book, the more he saw a figure in it. That was the person he wanted to know in order to understand Dumbledore, guttural Grindelwald. This Dark Lord is completely different from Voldemort. Although Voldemort also roamed throughout Europe, he was more like a terrorist, destroying everything. And this Grindelwald only did one thing, which was to give speeches and use his force to make others listen patiently. If others really didn't listen, and Grindelwald judged that someone would pose a threat to his career, they would be imprisoned or even killed. He only spoke the truth, the fact that the wizarding world had been surpassed by Muggles in some ways, and his concerns about the future. His heterochromatic eyes, which allow him to see the future, added extra points to his words. Weapons and Voldemort. This young version of Voldemort is exactly the same as him. No, this Voldemort was more understanding of Muggles and more humble. And he chose to become a professor. If he chose to teach his ideas at Hogwarts, would the wizarding world be able to maintain its status quo after a few years? What's more terrifying is, what would it mean if Dumbledore didn't stop it? Seeing Harry's worried look, Draco couldn't help but comfort him. What happened, Harry? I follow. Harry, I followed Draco's lead in this regard. If you discover the facts and don't deal with them, and just try to cover them up, it will only make the disaster that could have happened bigger and more difficult to control. A spell to heal me. My father is such a great man. He is trying to remove the rot on the entire wizarding world and is using privately modified Muggle distilled water as a water to heal his wounds. Ron sighed while chewing on foot. You really are Ron. Harry and Draco exclaimed at the same time. What the hell? I am also a Ravenclaw student. The only Weasley, said Ron, half proud and half puzzled. Hermione outside the cubicle looked horrified. This was why she didn't go to the room where Ryan was, which seemed to be problematic. She heard Ron said that Voldemort was going to become a professor when she got on the bus. She had thought Ron was just being naughty as usual. She had never expected this. Dumbledore seemed to have made the young Voldemort the professor of defense against the dark arts. Ryan, what should I do? Hermione couldn't help but think. Chapter 294, Uneasy Hermione. Quiet. Suddenly Hermione felt only extreme stillness. Some voices that I didn't notice but was still answering subconsciously also disappeared along with the sounds in the cubicle. She just felt as if she was on an isolated island. This feeling was extremely familiar. She remembered it. It was the same as in the tunnel to Atlantis. She could only hear her own voice now. In this extreme silence, the sounds of teeth grinding and robes swishing are particularly obvious. Coming, the handsome Ryan, whom she admired and had been communicating with during the summer vacation, who was more powerful in magic than Dumbledore. Ryan Smith, a mysterious character. Hermione, what's wrong? Ryan was still talking to Luna, while he created a new form out of nothingness and appeared behind Hermione. His face was gentle and concerned, as if he had no idea why Hermione had called him. Aren't you in the room? Hermione exclaimed, then tidied her messy hair as if awakened from a dream. I feel like you need me now. Ryan ruffled Hermione's fluffy hair. Hermione blushed slightly and straightened her robes needlessly, but the next second, she became serious again. Ryan, I heard Ron say one thing. Voldemort is our defense against the dark arts professor. School. In our place, which wizards call the Muggle world, if a headmaster dared to do this, I think he would not only resign, but he might even go to jail for a few years. Do you know what this is? Like the most dangerous terrorist in the world, the main hide him in the only school in the future of the entire country. Knowing that the terrorist was in the school, even though he had no weapon, but... Hermione chattered on and on, as if she wanted to pour out all her fear and anger. In her opinion, she came to school, not to live in an environment where the most powerful Dark Lord in the wizarding world existed. By the end of her speech, she was even out of breath and began to take deep breaths. Hermione, I can actually understand your concerns. But you forget that we are wizards, wizards who have their own power. The knowledge we learn is power. According to your analogy, Hogwarts should be the most powerful military school in the Muggle world. Headmaster Dumbledore controls what is considered the most powerful military force in the world, and his army is also stationed in the school. Voldemort is the leader of a terrorist organization, but he has no weapons. However, he has the most advanced flying machine in the world, which means no one can catch him. He only has one team, Quirrell, serving him at Hogwarts. And the events of last semester are the best opportunity to track the hidden dangers of this peaceful world and capture him. A small team, Kilo, cannot pose a danger to the fully armed students under the strict defense of the army. Encirclement of the terrorist organization in Dumbledore's army. Ryan explained using Hermione's metaphor. Hermione was also a smart little witch, so she had no difficulty in understanding Ryan's words quickly. So, according to you, Voldemort escaped last term, but a part of him was captured and became one of us. I understand. There is a curse in the defense against the dark arts class, Voldemort's curse. With Voldemort taking this position, does it mean that we won't need to change teachers frequently in our defense against the dark arts classes in the future? Hermione jumped up excitedly. She knew that with Ryan here, no one else would notice her disrespectful behavior. After briefly realizing that this semester was not a big deal, she immediately thought about her academic problems. Although she was only a sophomore and had not yet experienced the impact of changing teachers. But she judged the disadvantages of teachers changing from the weakness of Ravenclaw senior students in defense against the dark arts class. So, she has actually always been a little worried about these things. But, that's not necessary now. Come to think of it, maybe it's a good thing that Voldemort became a professor. Ryan, aren't you in the room? Hermione, whose IQ had regained the upper hand, asked this question when Ryan did not answer it directly. Furthermore, Ryan's necklace can create extra shapes, so it is still unclear whether the one in front of her is Ryan himself. I was in that room, but I felt that little Hermione was in danger, so I rushed over. Ryan told the truth, he was indeed in that room, and he did rush over for Hermione. He used his strength and consciousness to get here, and in no time he came over on his own. When Ryan and Hermione went to the compartment where she put her luggage, inside was little witches like Lisa Dupin, Hermione's roommate. Luna was curiously watching the mist that Ryan had created. In the mist was the scene of Ron and Harry talking to each other. Wizard's hairy heart. I see. Voldemort must have pulled his heart out, so he became as cold and heartless as the wizard in that story. And Dumbledore discovered Voldemort's heart, and that became harder, Professor. Luna said suddenly. Luna's father, others through their conversation, but Ryan couldn't help but marvel because the story Luna told coincided with the meaning of the soul fragment in the diary to Voldemort. What is preserved in the diary is Voldemort's fake conscience. After abandoning it, a true monster is born. In the story of the wizard's hairy heart, the handsome wizard became cold and lost the ability to love because he separated his heart. Yes, it's almost the same. He drew his wand, and the mist in the compartment slowly vanished. The view outside the window, which had become completely dark, was revealed, and stars began to light up in the night sky. Chapter 295, A New Luna. On the train to Hogwarts, it's getting dark. Ryan, can you go out for a walk? Luna couldn't help but feel a little proud when she received Ryan's praise, but when she looked at the dark sky, she suddenly remembered something. What? Out of the corner of her eye. He clearly knows. All right. I remember now, we're almost at Hogwarts. Ryan looked as if he had suddenly realized something. Luna pouted and couldn't help but snorted. Ryan waved his hand and walked out of the cubicle before Luna could get even more angry. When I opened the door, I saw a scattered few wizards also staying outside. I guess they were because there were also little witches changing clothes inside. Originally, Luna was raised alone by a father who didn't know how to take care of his daughter. Luna's father didn't know how to dress her daughter, and with her slightly bulging, silver-white eyes, it was understandable that she was called a crazy girl. Luna herself is pretty cute. Boys of the same age said bad things about her because they wanted to attract her attention. Girls rejected her because she was unkempt. The same was true in the original world line, when she was excluded after entering Ravenclaw. But there are more magical animals that she made up than don't exist for those who believe in books. Luna is the most annoying person. What Ravenclaw lacks the least is young wizards who believe in books. Being treated like this made Luna a little neurotic. Completely different from the Luna that Ryan met when he just got on the car, but Luna is still a little weird now, very straightforward and without the warmth that a human should have. However, Ryan used his charm and the right remedy, inventing the magical creature soundproof bat, to thaw Luna. Ryan sighed at Luna's actions and adjusted his thinking speed deliberately. When he finished thinking, Luna knocked gently on the door behind the cubicle, reminding Ryan that she had changed her clothes. Ryan pushed open the door, and even though he was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but be amazed. Without the burden of her weird outfit, Luna looked completely different. Although her hair was still messy and barely groomed, it couldn't hide her cuteness. However, after Ryan came in, she felt a little depressed for some reason. What's wrong? Ryan sat down next to Luna and held Luna's little hand worriedly. Luna struggled symbolically for a few times and then gave up. You are a senior student, right? My father said that only first-year wizards go to Hogwarts by ship. Luna said dejectedly. Can't we meet again at Hogwarts? We are friends, and friends will not become estranged because of a short separation. Besides, my magic is so magical, can't I stay with you forever? Ryan couldn't help laughing and began to comb Luna's hair. With a better image, Luna would not be so easily rejected by the Ravenclaw students. When Luna heard what Ryan said, she couldn't help but smile for the first time. She didn't resist Ryan's manipulation of her hair. Her intuition did not reveal that Ryan had any ill will towards her. On the contrary, all this made her heart warm, which was a very strange feeling. Being with Dad was similar, but also different. Next, from Luna's perspective, Ryan held her hand all the time as they took a boat, passed through the tunnel, climbed the stone steps, and were arranged by Professor McGonagall to stay in a small room until the sorting. Luna. Is that you? After Professor McGonagall left, Ginny waved to Luna enthusiastically. She couldn't help but look at Luna several times, and couldn't believe that the beautiful little witch in front of her was Luna. Luna couldn't help but stand in front of Ryan where no one else could see her and acknowledged at Ginny. Luna, do you know that Harry Potter lived in our house some time ago? Later Ron and that Malfoy went to the Black House. Do you know what's even more outrageous? After we met at King's Cross Station, Ron talked to us for a few words, and when we got on the train, he disappeared with Harry. Ginny seemed particularly lively in front of the little friends she knew. There was no sign of him shrinking back like he did in front of Ron or Harry. Luna kept standing in front of Ryan. For some reason, she didn't want Ryan to know Ginny. Ryan didn't say anything. The perspective returns to Hermione, And at that time Luna had not yet gotten off the train, talked about all kinds of gossip and fun things during the summer vacation. The one that is talked about the most is Gilderoy Lockhart. Lisa Dupin said indignantly, "I think Gilderoy's punishment is too severe. He just borrowed someone else's story and used a few spells. Why did he have to stay in Azkaban for so long?" Padma couldn't help but agree, "I'm not saying he's not guilty. I also think Gilderoy needs to be punished. But this is too heavy." Parvati and her sister said in unison. Although Hermione wanted to refute, she, unlike the original world line, already understood what emotional intelligence was. So she could only go along with it and pat Ryan's hand from time to time to comfort him. Ryan looked depressed, although he understood one thing: as long as he didn't hide his presence, these chattering little witches would all forget the name of Gilderoy Lockhart. But this also means that he will become the central figure in this compartment and will have no peace. Fortunately, their topic soon returned to the mysterious defense against the dark arts professor. Ouch, I'm such a mess. I hope that the handsome young professor and Dumbledore are a couple, but I also hope that what Rita Skeeter said was just a rumor. Then maybe I will have a chance. Lisa Dupin couldn't help but say as she stroked the handsome face of the young version of Voldemort in the Daily Prophet. The other little witches agreed in agreement. They started discussing other CPs, Diha, Roha, Rona, etc. Sure enough, most women have the potential to be rotten girls. There is no inside information here. Thanks to Taishi Yumeksu for the monthly ticket, and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 296 Yuki. After getting off the train, what are the means of transportation to Hogwarts? From Harry Potter's perspective, it was a ship in his first year. He was not sure in his second year. He and Ron went to Hogwarts by flying car. Harry thought it was an invisible carriage in his third and fourth years, and it was not until his fifth year that Harry realized it was a thestral. Harry is actually not an ignorant wizard, especially since he has Ron, who has a wide range of unconventional knowledge, and Hermione, who is knowledgeable, by his side. But even so, after Harry had care of magical creatures in his third year and had Hagrid as a friend, he still didn't know about the Thestral's majestic animals. He also understood that there were some magical creatures that he should not talk about when he first became the professor of care of magical biology. The Hippogriff's fall was only because Hagrid didn't expect that someone would dare to deliberately provoke him, after he clearly said that this creature was proud and would be dangerous if it didn't do what he asked. Therefore, in the original world line, Hagrid's predecessor, Professor Kettleburn, never talked about it, and Hagrid only started to introduce the creature known as the Thestrals in class 5 years after Harry's death. The Thestrals also have a property that makes them invisible to people who have never seen death. And this kind of death is to see the passing of intelligent life and to fully accept and understand it. In the original world line, Harry did not see the Thestrals immediately after witnessing Cedric's death. Discovered after all, no teacher has ever told them about it, and its shape is invisible to most mentally immature young wizards, who don't understand death. To the little wizard who saw it, the Thestral had a creepy appearance. It was large and skinny, with a head that looked very much like a dragon, a pair of white eyes without pupils, and a pair of large bat wings. Plus, in the wizarding world, hearing voices that others can't hear and seeing things that others can't see are not a good sign. Now, even the little wizard who saw it would not tell of its existence. In the original world line, Luna's exclusion was probably related to it. Luna liked to go to the kitchen and get some bloody raw meat to feed them. In the eyes of the little wizard who could not see the Thestrals, a little witch covered in blood was throwing the flesh and blood of some unknown creature into the air, and the flesh and blood continued to disappear. This is already considered a horror movie killer. So, seeing the Thestrals is not a good thing. It's not superstition, but its appearance, coupled with the rejection of others. So, Ryan, who had already got off the carriage, hesitated for a moment when Hermione asked what pulled the carriage, considering whether to introduce it to Hermione directly or use his own means to let Hermione see it. Ryan, these carriages obviously have nothing to pull them, so why do they have to set up spurs in front, 2 straight wooden poles in front of the carriages to pull the livestock? Seeing Ryan was stunned for a moment, Hermione thought he didn't understand what she meant, so she explained to Ryan in detail. At this moment, Ryan and the others had already boarded the carriage, including Hermione, Ryan, Harry and Ron. Draco got in one with Goyle, Crabbe, and Pansy. Yet, what are those? Invisible horses. Also, Ryan, long time no see. Hermione. Thank you for your gifts. Harry also came closer and asked curiously. After being away from Ryan during summer vacation, he had many questions about magic that he wanted to consult Ryan. Ryan and Hermione exchanged a few words with Harry, and also greeted Harry and Ron. I think this might be an alchemical item. Dumbledore is just a great alchemist, he can work with Nicholas Flamel. You don't know, but Dumbledore also came to Harry's birthday this time. He also gave Harry a magical deluminator. Harry even invented a spell through him. Ron looked proud, as if he was the one who received Dumbledore's gift and had his birthday celebrated. But Ryan could understand it. After all, Ron was stupid in some ways. He didn't know that the magic trap he had broken into last semester was actually very simple. In addition, this time he and Harry broke into the place where Voldemort hid his most precious things. It's normal for Ron to be so inflated. But Harry didn't know that Ryan knew it all, and he couldn't stop winning at Ron when Ron was boasting. This made Ron think that Harry was asking him to talk more. Yes. This person is not an outsider. Hermione is my friend, Ryan is my roommate, not to mention that I have shared everything about the Philosopher's Stone last school year with him. Ron suddenly realized in his heart. So he continued to talk about Harry's and Draco's summer vacation. If he hadn't been more careful, he would have even mentioned Regulus. Okay, Ron, why don't we listen to Ryan's thoughts? I think he definitely knows what this carriage is about. You know, Ryan and Hermione were the first place last year. Harry couldn't help but say. He didn't know that Ron was a little cunning, so he could only interrupt him quickly to prevent Regulus's affairs from being leaked. Ron smacked his lips in dissatisfaction. They were still their friends. But this trend cannot be allowed to continue. What if Harry keeps being so modest and causes the fame they deserve to suffer? You know, last school year, when Ron was bragging about how he and Harry saved the Philosopher's Stone, Harry said a lot of things like this. But Ron kept his mouth shut. Although fame and bragging about himself and Harry were important, the relationship between him and Harry, and between him and Ryan and Hermione was also important. Harry is right. Ryan kept it a secret joy and was not at all frustrated because I guessed wrong. In his mind, there was no difference between Harry and him guessing correctly. Harry didn't say anything, but just stretched his neck to hear the rest of the words clearly. That's a thestral, a creature that can only see death if it sees it and accepts it, Ryan said, and he drew his wand and waved it. Thestrals. This kind of creature will bring disaster. I dare say it's a little worse than ominous. Ron said in shock at first, and then the next second, he and Harry and the others widened their eyes and were speechless. Before their eyes, in the middle of Zuinun, a strange horse appeared before their eyes. There was no meat on the horse's body. Its black fur was tightly attached to its skeleton, and every bone was clearly visible. Chapter 297 Ron's Scream. In the dark night, ghostly carriages moved automatically without wind towards the towering Hogwarts castle in the distance. Not far away, the small boats on the lake looked particularly eerie under the light of the lanterns on the boats. Not to mention the Black Forest, there were also faint wolf howls coming from deep in the Forbidden Forest. All of this made the second-year freshmen, who were not yet accustomed to the scenery outside the carriage, only dare to look at the classmates in the same box, talk about gossip about the new semester, and try to relax. However, at this moment, a loud scream came from around them. The scream was like a torch falling into a pile of grain, and then, screams one after another continued to ring out from the convoy. What's wrong? It's a werewolf. The werewolf in the Forbidden Forest has come out. It's ghosts. The ghosts from the Shrieking Shack have escaped. Crowd, hey, Lee Jordan. Guess what the first sound sounded like to me? I know. Our little brother screamed when he saw his doll turn into a spider. Yes, that's him. That's right. This carriage smells faintly of mold and straw. It's normal to have a spider. The entire convoy returned to calm. Damn it, Percy. I can tell it's him. Fred and George don't even mention my name. Ron's face was almost as red as his hair. As Ron kept cursing under his breath, Harry had no choice but to take advantage of the effect of Ryan's spell and stare at the thestral without saying anything. The same goes for Ryan and Hermione. They all knew that now was the time to give Ron some private time. They could only look forward, where they saw a pair of magnificent cast iron gates, flanked by stone pillars with winged bars at the ends. After entering the iron gate, there is a long sloping driveway. Yuki also increased the speed, as if he had realized that he was almost at the destination. Sure enough, many corner towers and turrets gradually approached them. They had arrived at Hogwarts. That's Ron Weasley. The one who just screamed. Isn't he the nemesis of magical creature poachers? One of the three musketeers who defeated you-know-who? Why is he afraid of spiders? I think it must be Harry Potter's credit. I wish I were Harry's friend. After getting off the bus, the students around looked in Ron's direction, pointing and whispering. For the first time, Ron hated his fiery red hair steps so much, it was so eye-catching. Ron, are you okay? Draco and his friends walked around the stone leading into the castle and the crowd, and walked towards Ron and his friends. Nothing? I just saw a damn thestral. They are indeed a disaster. Look. I'm done for this semester. Ron said with a depressed look. What are you looking at? Ron yelled at a black-haired witch from Ravenclaw. Its features were completely unclear in the dark. But Ron still noticed what was on his chest with his sharp eyes, supporters of the Tuchel tornadoes. They were not famous at all before. Another guy who follows the trend and catches the wave. A lot of people only pay attention to a team after it starts winning. Ron said, pointing to the tornado badge on the girl's chest in the common room. Chuzang promoted the tornado team to her at that time. The tornado team was not yet famous. I remember Captain Johnny once said she'd be a very good seeker, if it weren't for me. Harry thought thoughtfully. She was just looking at Harry, as a future member of the Ravenclaw Quidditch team. Look to the captain, Ryan added. Okay. It's all my fault. Crabbe and Goyle also followed Draco and disappeared like door gods. Chuzang disappeared in the crowd. Ryan and the others joined the crowd walking up the stone steps, passing through the huge oak door and entering the deep vestibule. The front hall was brightly lit by torches, and there was a magnificent marble staircase leading upstairs. Perfects used paper cranes to inform me that it was nothing serious. It was Lupin. Nothing, I just saw the thestrals, Ron said weakly. Thestrals? What's wrong with you? Oh, I remember your Uncle Billions died. Lupin misunderstood something. And Ron was in no mood to explain that he had not seen his uncle die. So they continued to follow the crowd to the Great Hall and sat at the Ravenclaw table. What just happened? Ron. Is it a spider? I think Fred and George are joking. Neville and other roommates said. Dean at the Gryffindor table, Seamus turned around, and Lavendra grew ears. I just saw the thestrals. Do you understand, thestrals? 2. They can only see that I'm my grandfather after seeing a dead person, Neville said tremblingly. Ron's description of the thestral seemed to have brought back horrible memories for him. I know. They're very, very unlucky. Lavender Brown suddenly made the same scream that Ron had just made. She was a witch who, like Ron, was into all kinds of superstitions and was well versed in them. It's no wonder that in the original world, Lavender pursued Ron madly. No, that's just superstition. There's nothing unlucky about it. They are smart and useful. You know, my relative Tina Goldstein is the lover of Newt Scudman, the master of magical creatures. Anthony, who hadn't shown off this for a long time, suddenly said. Perhaps because of his relatives, he knew a lot about magical biology and had already read through Newt's book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Even if they were not unlucky, they're still not a good thing. Look. My reputation is ruined because of seeing them. Ron slumped on the table dejectedly. He felt that the semester was over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Riddle's Charm. Ron's gloomy behavior stopped Lavender and Anthony from arguing. They looked at each other and shut their mouths at the same time. At this time, the first-year students had already stood in front of the classroom seats, standing stiffly, waiting for the separation. Look, that's Ginny. Harry said quickly, trying to amuse Ron's attention. Ginny. How could I forget? That's my sister. She's so smart. I think she might be a Ravenclaw like me. Ron really perked up when his brother paid attention to his sister. Is it that cute red-haired girl? Michael Corner whispered. For some reason, his face turned a little red, which could not be hidden by his dark skin. Forks. Said Ron proudly. Ryan looked at Michael, one of Ginny's ex-boyfriends in the original world line, with a strange smile. Do you know? Ginny learned to use a toy broom when she was 6 years old. She is a natural Quidditch star. He kept praising Michael, who was willing to listen to her sister's story, and Michael's face became redder and redder. Wait, who's that little witch next to Ginny? She looks familiar to me, a crazy girl. Her name seems to be Luna, my sister mentioned her. Ron said, with a look of disbelief on his face chin, thinking. But I've been wanting to ask for a long time, why do you call her a crazy girl? Harry looked at Ron puzzledly. He felt that this nickname was too much for a girl. Her hair color was very similar to Draco's, more towards white, and her eyes were similar to her friend Ryan's. I'm not sure, but she's not like this usually. Her hair is messy like Hermione, and she wears some weird decorations, even weird among wizards, like beer bottle corks, leftover carrot tops and the like. Ron's eyes flashed with reminiscence. It seemed as if he had not noticed that he had also slightly discredited Hermione. What? Oh, is it time for the sorting? Ron looked at Harry, and Harry pulled his sleeve. Harry looked up in Hermione's direction, only to find that she was paying no attention to what Ron was saying. That's right, Harry noticed that almost everyone was looking towards the staff table. Even he himself couldn't help but look there. There are 2 more seats at the staff table this year. You know, there is only one professor position vacant this year. One of them is Lupin, who is elegant but weathered. The other is Tom Riddle, the legendary Dark Lord. He was not the same person as the ugly and terrifying Voldemort. Harry was very suspicious. Did Voldemort lose his mind to be willing to destroy such a face? A dreamy face as white as marble, something that only Michelangelo could carve. This can barely be compared with Ryan. Such conversations kept ringing in the mouths of the little witch and some little wizards. Even Harry felt that he had an inexplicable liking for him. But this is not right. This should also be Voldemort's heart, and every time I face them, I feel a strong rejection. But this is completely different, it's like he has a new blood brother. Tom Riddle seemed to notice Harry's gaze and turned to give him a big smile. Screams came from the Ravenclaw and Gryffindor tables. He is looking at me. Ninian. Look at me. Is there anything wrong with my look? He's looking at me. Academy. He's looking at you. Loser. Riddle's smile caused the Ravenclaws and Gryffindors, who had originally had a good relationship, to start a quarrel. Names like Stupid Lion and Freak kept popping up among them. Even their prefects, Penelope and Percy, could hardly stop. Harry glared at Riddle, the instigator, who seemed accustomed to it and seemed to be well aware of his own charm. This made Harry's inexplicable good feeling that had just emerged from the bottom of his heart disappear. But there was one thing that Harry was a little confused about. Where had the ghost of Ravenclaw, Ms. Grey, gone? According to the records of last year and before, she has never been absent from the branch. Nearly headless Nick from the Lamfender table floated over. Grey has been acting very strangely lately. She has been staying in Ravenclaw's tower, next to the statue of Ravenclaw, staring at the diadem on Ravenclaw's head in a trance. She hardly moves. You know, she is, well, I can't say. I mean, she shouldn't be so obsessed with the diadem control. Quiet. Professor McGonagall couldn't help but say. She was like an angry lioness, her lips pursed stiffly, and she glanced at Gryffindor and Ravenclaw with eyes that seemed to burn everything. The war of words came to an abrupt end. She stood still for a moment, placed a 3-legged stool on the ground in front of the freshmen, and placed a tattered, dirty, and patched wizard's hat on the stool. The first-year students stared at it in amazement, looked at it too. For a moment, there was silence in the auditorium. However, just as the Sorting Hat was about to sing, something unexpected happened. Dumbledore stood up and, for the first time in history, began to speak before the Sorting Hat sang the sorting song. I think everyone has noticed, and many people also knew in advance from the Daily Prophet. Dumbledore paused for a moment, but no one responded. Only Tom Riddle raised his glass to greet him. He looked at Riddle seriously and continued, "This year, I am very pleased to welcome 2 new teachers to join our team. They are both professors of defense against the dark arts." Chapter 299 The Sorting Hat Song. The auditorium was a sea of pointed black hats. Every long table was almost full of students, and their faces were illuminated by thousands of candles. The candles are suspended in mid-air above the table. The ghosts were shining silver in the air. As soon as Dumbledore finished speaking, a buzz came from the students below in the hall. They were strange from the beginning. They kept looking at Riddle with eyes mixed with a little fear. When they learned that another wizard dared to share the same position with Riddle, they were almost furious. But the next second, Harry figured it out. In Pilgrim the British Wizarding World, Especially among purebloods, almost everyone is a relative. It is inevitable that there will be wizarding families like Draco's who know the young version of Voldemort understood very well. This can be seen from Keluo's fate. He would not hesitate to sacrifice the lives of his own servants, and might even take his anger out on others. Well, the expressions of these purebloods, or Slytherins, who all know everything, are understandable after all. Maybe it was to avoid being implicated by some stupid Slytherin they had both sounded the alarm for every Slytherin, telling them the truth that Riddle was Voldemort. Dumbledore cleared his throat, his light blue eyes looked around through his half-moon glasses, and the hall returned to silence in the next second. The students craned their necks to hear what Dumbledore would say next. It's normal that the ghosts are not very curious. What happened in this school could be hidden from them. They must have known. Okay, this is Remus Lupin. He will be the assistant teacher for the Defense Against the Dark Arts class for next year. Direction. Lupin stood up and there was some scattered, less than enthusiastic applause from the audience. Ryan didn't think it was strange. Although Lupin did not dress as shabbily as in the original book. But with the other graceful Riddle around, who would think of applauding? Furthermore, Snape, the head of Slytherin, was staring at Lupin along the long faculty table, which was very obvious. The expression on his thin, sallow face was twisted, something more than angry hatred. Now, even when the Slytherins heard that Lupin was an assistant teacher and thought that Lupin was Riddle's new servant, they did not dare to applaud. After all, Lupin is not the Dark Lord. Even if he is really the Dark Lord's servant, there is no need for him to offend their headmaster. But Harry, Ron and Draco would naturally applaud loudly. They knew Lupin. As they applauded vigorously, others also applauded for Harry and the others, and the applause gradually became more intense. Dumbledore also deliberately paused for a while and continued speaking after the applause was enthusiastic. This is the Professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts this semester and in the future, Tom Riddle. I think everyone has known him for a long time. Dumbledore had just finished speaking. The Slytherin table, as well as students at other house tables who were attracted by Riddle's appearance, burst into thunderous applause dance. Okay, let's continue with this sorting. The freshmen are probably going to hate me for making them stand for so long. Dumbledore said this after about 10 minutes, when the applause gradually died down. It's time to start the sorting. I'm hungry. Ron muttered. Lisa Dupin on the side rolled her eyes at him, for what Ron said and for the fact that he didn't applaud or idle Riddle then. The sorting hat on the stool trembled, as if to remind everyone that it was about to begin, and a crack near the brim of the hat opened like a mouth and began to sing. Don't look at my plain appearance. I am the magic cat of Gryffindor. 4 great wizards infused me with thoughts. Their names are still passed down to this day. Let me sing. The barren swamp is the home of Gryffindor. The quiet riverside is the hometown of Ravenclaw. The open valley is the hometown of Hufflepuff. The moist quagmire is the homeland of Slytherin. The brave Gryffindor walked out of the swamp. Wise Ravenclaw thinking by the river. The benevolent Hufflepuffs planted gardens in the valley. The shrewd Slytherin hides in the mire. 4 different growth environments. 4 great wizards with different personalities. A common vision unites them. The same goal makes them work together. Hogwarts was founded. Motivated teenagers. Hufflepuff accepts hard-working children. Come were me. The magic cat with the thoughts of the Big 4. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. Let me see your mind. Which college will light up for you? After the sorting hat finished singing, there was warm applause in the hall. As the applause faded, Professor McGonagall unrolled a large roll of parchment. When I call someone's name, he puts his hat on his head and sits on the stool. Sit at the corresponding tables, Professor McGonagall said to the first-year students. Jason Astra. A little boy sat down on the chair tremblingly. Hufflepuff, yelled the sorting hat. This is the song it took a whole year to come up with. Sorting, 1 year? It has the ideas of the Big 4. In my opinion, this is just its improvisation. What's it supposed to warn about? Seamus asked, turning his head. He was drawn to Ron's words. Hey, you were eavesdropping on me. Ron waved his fork unhappily. Hunger plus a little anger made his expression particularly ferocious. You're just being too loud. I don't even want to hear it. Seamus said sarcastically, and before Ron could continue to refute, he turned his head away. Hermione, who was sitting with Ryan not far away, couldn't help but nod in agreement when she heard Seamus say that Ron had a loud voice. Luna Lovegood. She didn't look like a crazy girl at all in terms of appearance, and she wasn't as nervous as the average little wizard. You know, even a young and brave wizard would inevitably panic when facing the sorting. Harry was suddenly stunned. An empty seat suddenly appeared not far from him, next to Ryan. That Luna sat over there and appeared. I just discovered that the seat was empty. This must be Ryan's work. This also means that this Luna must know Ryan hour reviewing it, but I am still not satisfied. Normally it takes 1 hour, and if it's slow, a one-word first draft can be completed. No wonder Rowling only wrote the Sorting Hat song in 3 of her 7 books. Chapter 300 Depressed Harry. As the sorting of the houses was in full swing at the staff table, from Harry's perspective, a war suddenly broke out around Ryan. Although Hermione looked perfectly calm, Harry couldn't help but think of Mrs. Weasley. This was how she looked when she was angry, the calm before the storm. The little witch named Luna didn't feel Hermione's anger at all. She seemed to know nothing and just kept talking to Ryan. My sister is also a Ravenclaw. Weasley's baby. Our little sister. Ginny. Ravenclaw. Just as Harry was curious about what they were talking about, the shouts of Ron, Percy, Fred and George suddenly woke Harry up. Ginny blushed and almost ran towards the Ravenclaw table and many more. This is not right. Why is there an empty seat next to me? When did I forget this? Do not. Ginny, do not come. Harry's heart was in turmoil to Ron's sister who was sitting next to him, pretending not to know Ginny's improper thoughts about him. Out of the corner of his eye he saw Ryan suddenly smile at him. He just watched the show in revenge. However, Ron, the young and inexperienced man, obviously didn't know what Ginny really wanted, to get closer to Harry and why that she was amazing and that she was worthy of being my sister. Harry suddenly began to doubt, is Ron really Mr. Weasley's child? Even when Percy saw Ginny blushing and sitting next to Harry, he didn't come over to show his presence like he did when Ron was sorted into Ravenclaw. He also understood that he should give his sister some private space now. Fortunately, just when Harry was wondering whether Ginny was about to draw her wand and knock Ron unconscious, Dumbledore stood up again. Ron's hunger also overcame his affection for his sister. This made him let Ginny go. His eyes seemed to glow green, and he grabbed his knife and fork, staring eagerly at the golden plate in front of him. Harry noticed that the bulging vein on Ginny's forehead had also relaxed. Dumbledore, who was sitting at the staff desk, looked at all the students with a smile, opened his arms and made a welcoming gesture. I have only 2 words for you, he said, his rich voice echoing through the hall. Eat. Then the empty plate suddenly magically filled with food. A voice like a beast out of a cage suddenly came from Harry's left. Anything, and didn't even use a knife. He just started biting it with his mouth. The splashing gravy covered Michael's face as he leaned sideways to look at Ginny. Everyone around was stunned. Michael, who was shot in the face by Ron, did not move, as if nothing had happened. Phew. Harry, I'm finally alive. Ron interrupted, taking a big bite of mashed potatoes with relish. Suddenly noticed the gravy on his face and was wiping it sloppily, while walking around Ron and Harry to see if Ginny had noticed his current state of disgrace. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Ginny lower her head. Neville and the others ate to calm their nerves. Ginny, eat. Back to his senses and made he think of his sister. I'm not hungry, Ginny said in a mosquito-like voice. Ron, Ginny must be too excited. You eat first, Harry said suddenly. Only then did Ron devote himself to eating again. Ginny raised her head slightly and gave Harry a grateful smile. But Michael thought it was directed at him. He blinked and gave Ginny what he thought was a charming smile. Ginny felt like vomiting. What's wrong, Ginny? Harry asked concernedly, quickly putting down his half-eaten foot. Nothing. Well, who's that dark guy? Ginny frowned. He smiles a bit like Lockhart, that idiot my mother keeps talking about. For Michael to do this. His personality is actually a bit similar to Ron. He always likes to say something unconventional or do something eccentric. Like when Roger was talking about the history of Quidditch, he talked nonsense to attract other people's attention. Ginny's fair skin was flushed again, because Harry had been staring at her as he spoke. This made Ginny wonder if she was too brave. It was obvious that he hadn't gotten used to talking to Harry directly yet. Time passed very slowly in this awkward atmosphere, as if a century had passed. The dishes on the golden plates on the table disappeared, and with Ron's satisfied burp, they were filled with desserts in the blink of an eye. Chocolate cake. My favorite. Ginny, would you like someone? Ron turned and looked at his sister. She had her head bowed, drinking pumpkin juice from her tall golden goblet. After hearing what Ron said, she seemed to choke. Ahem, no thanks, it's summer, I want some, this ice cream is good. Slowly, Ron said in a kind tone that had never appeared on his face before. Ron, what do you think will be taught in our defense against the dark arts class? Well, that's beyond doubt. He's that guy. Even if I'm worried about Hagrid being afraid of magical creatures, I wouldn't worry about his defense against the dark arts class. Ron didn't take the bait. He stuffed a pudding into his mouth and muttered, "You are so right. Those who think Professor Riddle is making money through the back door are just jealous of him." And, Ron, did I hear you right? You know the story of Professor Riddle. Lisa Dupin, who was sitting diagonally opposite them, widened her eyes. Harry didn't know whether to be happy or not. The creepy look on Ron's face did indeed disappear. But, following Lisa Dupin's words, all the little witches around them almost turned their heads curiously and looked at them. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.